The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers now. Once again, listen, it's been 83 days since I sat in this spot. I really missed being on the regular YouTube set, so it's great to be here. It's great to be live. Um, I don't really have a particular topic picked out for this live. I'm gonna kind of just freestyle this one, and then tomorrow we'll do like a more structured live. But it's good to be home, man. It was a long, arduous, 83 days away from home. Just Las Vegas, Atlanta, and a lot of places in between all that. So it's good to kind of just be back to normal. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be home because there's a strong possibility that I might pull up to that Keyshawn Davis Nahir Albright fight this weekend. I'm very interested in that fight. It's not that far away, so I'll definitely pull up there. But while I'm here, guys, listen, I'm going to give y'all the customary 2 hours. So whoever pops in, pops in. Whoever catches me, catches me. If you're watching the playback, sorry you missed me. Smash the like button anyway. And let your thoughts be known. There's a lot of things going on in the boxing world, a lot of things going on in the fight game, and anything y'all want to talk about. I'm gonna let y'all steer the conversation. I don't got a bunch of talking points or anything like that. I'm kind of just getting back into the flow of normal real life because who knows? You may see your boy BT back in training camp before you know it. So this life, this game, this life that we chose to be involved in many different crevices of boxing, it knows no bounds, and things can change on the drop of a dime like that. So before I get to the comments, there's 12 of you guys here. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Go ahead and smash the like button, please, so this live gets pushed out to as many people as possible. Get your questions in, your thoughts. Let me know what city, what state, what continent you're watching from, so I know how international we are on the broadcast. But anyway, let's get into it, man, because I know a lot of you guys have really interesting things to say. If you got some real interesting things to say, make sure you go ahead and your super chat, because that definitely helps. Me stay being able to go to these fights and giving you guys great interviews and things like that. And there's a lot of great interviews on the way, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, we got Mar the Prince in the building. Shout out to Mar the Prince. He says, "What's up, BT?" Brian Norman and Jr. and Jan Santana are on that joint too. Yeah, man. I like Keyshawn Davis, but the two main reasons I'm actually pulling up to that fight is because Brian Norman Jr. is one of my favorite fighters. Like last year, when your boy was going through a lot of stuff personally, just away from all this stuff, that was one of the fighters that kind of kept my love for boxing alive. I got a lot of love for Brian Norman Jr. And then also, Pistol Pete Dobson's on the undercard, another great friend of the channel. He's fighting Kelvin Davis, so I want to go over there and see if he can do it. If he could score the signature victory of his career, I think it's probably one of the most winnable fights he's had in a long time. And we'll see if he actually had a good camp and comes in shape, because my thing with Pete is he's always been a good fighter. He's been capable. He's not in shape the way he needs to be in shape. So yeah, I want to go check those guys. Also, Keyshawn Davis is fighting, and it'll be a new experience. I never experienced boxing in Virginia before. That'd be a new state. That'd be something new for me, and I like experiencing new things in the sport of boxing. So yeah, and as far as Jan Santana is a good fighter. He's a featherweight. He had a great performance against Aaron Alameda. So he's definitely someone to watch. Dominican fighter. So I definitely like to see him. Donnie says, "What have you heard of a Zuffa or ring event in New York City in the middle of July? Edgar Berlanga and Hitchens keep posting that they'll be fighting in July in New York." To be honest with you, I haven't heard anything about that, but I mean, I'm sure they're gonna fight here sooner rather than later, because they just signed with Zuffa. And Zuffa's now in that stage where they're gonna start doing shows away from the UFC Apex, and they're gonna as you've seen, they signed a deal with Sky Sports. They're doing shows. I think the Chris Bella Smith's fighting in Bournemouth. So now I think Zuffa's in the next phase. They've gotten the roster. They've acquired some talent. They're getting people in the door. Hitchens and Berlanga are on a different level from the guys they've been signing in terms of commercial value, commercial appeal, even star power, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I could definitely see that. July is the summertime in New York. People are going to be out and about. People are going to be coming in for, the summertime as well. So it makes a lot of sense to do it in July. But I haven't heard anything about that myself. Mother Prince says, thoughts on the rumors of Devin Haney and the Kerr headed to Zuffa. I've always thought when Zuffa became a thing, I've always thought that those guys would be fighters that you'd see on Zuffa on the Zuffa boxing platform, because really and truthfully, you know, Devin Haney and Shakur are used to getting paid a lot of money. Boxing's at a stage where the top power brokers in the sport are not going to pay these guys what they're accustomed to. So that being said, Zuffa Boxing's splashing the cash right now. They're in that phase. And if you guys have been watching boxing long enough, you guys know the phase I'm talking about. The same phase that DAZN was in early on when they started out with Matchroom Boxing. The same phase that PBC was at when they started off their venture. Triller at one particular point. Damn. They're splashing the cash right now, so they're trying to get in while and strike while the iron's hot. So I'm not surprised that it could happen if the rumors are true. And I hope if they do that Zuffa Boxing doesn't do Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson at the UFC Apex. That would be very lifeless, very soulless. Go do it somewhere like an actual venue, like promote it like a real big fight, because it is a big fight. Some people may shit on that fight and say, "Oh well, Shakur Stevenson is boring, Devin Haney is boring," whatever the case may be. But it's a big fight. Those are two big names, and in my opinion, that is in fact one of the defining fights of our era. So I'll just say it like that. Now, Shim, we didn't even get 8 minutes into this live because I knew this question was coming. I knew this question was coming because I've been seeing it all over Twitter, and I'm gonna address it here. So I'm gonna put it to y'all like this. I'm gonna address this one time. If anybody pops in this live and asks me this question later on, I will not answer it again. So just make sure you guys in the chat go ahead and tell whoever asked this in the later on in this live. Make sure you tell them that I already addressed this, and to fast forward back to the 7-minute mark because I'm gonna address it this one time. So my man Shim7817 says, what can you tell us about the Espinoza-Leo unification? A Japanese account says that negotiations between Espinoza and Figueroa fell off, so now Espinoza's team is aiming for Leo now. What I can tell you guys about that, and I'm going to give you guys my perspective. You guys can feel free to do with this what you want. So yesterday, when I got on the bus, because I took a bus to go back home from Atlanta, right, and it wasn't that far. I got on the bus and I see this rumor, right, that Espinoza's team is gonna go ahead and make Angelo an offer, or supposedly they're gonna wait a couple days and make an offer, right? Supposedly, right? Now, I talk to Miguel Leo all the time. Miguel Leo is like one of my closest friends on this earth, as is Angelo himself. So I'm in constant communication with the Leos, right? I'm part of the team. They have not said anything to me about an offer. I even went as far as to text one of the main representatives at ProBox TV, and I said, "Hey, man, are there any truth to the negotiations?" I'm trying to get to the bottom of it myself, and I'm still awaiting an update. But from what I've heard thus far, there hasn't been any offer. Now, those things can change in a couple days, but there hasn't been any offer. So everybody that's been tweeting me saying, BT, you guys got to take the offer and don't duck Espinoza and this, that, and the third. There's nothing to take because there's no offer, right? And my retort to anybody who's insinuating that Angelo Leo would duck Rafael Espinoza, let me just say this to you guys. There's no reason to duck Rafael Espinoza. Number one, it's a big fight. Number two, he's tailor-made for Angelo Leo. Number three, it's a legacy fight, and that's what it is. And number four, if you look at Angelo Leo's track record, he has a better resume than Espinoza. Remember, Rafael Espinoza is the one that his whole damn title reign has just been voluntary defenses. Arnold K-Guy was voluntary defense. What's his name? Arnold K-Guy was a voluntary defense. Sergio Trino Sanchez was a voluntary defense. Edward Vasquez was a voluntary defense, and his one mandatory was Obasio Ramirez, who he already fought. So I even count that as voluntary defense. So who has Espinoza even fought for you guys to make him out to be this big bad killer that everybody's ducking? A lot of you guys thought that the Brandon Figueroa unification fight was done. That proved to not be true. Rafael Espinoza was supposed to fight Venado Lopez last year, around last September, October. He was supposed to fight him. Venado Lopez signed for the fight. Venado Lopez was gonna fight Rafael Espinoza. Espinoza was the one that didn't step up to the plate to fight Venado Lopez. And it wasn't the other way around. And this is after the fact that Venado Lopez got knocked out by Angelo Leo, Espinoza still wouldn't fight him. So the onus ain't really on us. Angelo Leo is the easiest fighter in this division to make a fight with, right? So there hasn't been any offer. There's nothing to accept. If anything changes, if anything changes, guys, you will hear about it when the fight actually gets done, because fights are not negotiated through the media. Fights are not negotiated through one Spanish reporter, through Espinoza's team telling a Spanish reporter that they might make an offer. We've heard a lot of might be's and maybes and almost when it comes to Team Espinoza and Team Leo. We don't deal with almost and might be's and maybes. We deal with, we're either gonna fight or we're not gonna fight. And as of right now, unfortunately, to tell you guys, there's no fight. So, and the last thing I'll say is this. About Espinoza and Angelo, and I'll leave it at this. I will dead it in the water because I'm not here to negotiate to the media. The only reason, and I'm gonna tell you guys this, because I remember when the decision was made to not go through with Raif Salim fight, I was with Angelo and Miguel and Luis Chavez, right? And I remember telling Miguel 5 minutes after the decision was made, I said, look, the unification offers are going to start coming in, because now Angelo hasn't fought for a year. If somebody decides to fight him, you're talking about, let's just say let's say that him and Angelo and Espinoza do fight in September. You're talking about Angelo Leo coming off of a 16-month layoff to fight Rafael Espinoza in a unification fight. So of course, that's the confidence they need to find their balls and make the offer, because they know that he hasn't fought for 16 months. Let's make the offer now. They've never been close to fighting. Contrary to what Zanford Promotions keeps feeding all the Hispanic reporters like Chava and the other guy, there hasn't been. They have not been close. They have not been close, because if they were close, Angelo Leo would have got a draft contract. If they were close, Miguel Leo would have gotten a draft contract. And I talked to those guys. I'm with them. I'm with them a lot. I've been with them a lot over the last year, and they've never received a draft contract to fight Rafael Espinoza. So I'll leave it at that. If you guys want to see this fight, then you guys got to get on Team Espinoza. It's not us. We're one of you guys. We will fight anyone. The track record speaks for itself. Venado Lopez, Stephen Fulton, Tomoe Kameda in Japan. He was the only fighter that actually signed a contract and made the weight and fought Raif Salim. Espinoza had a fight fall through with Raif Salim. Stephen Fulton never fought Raif Salim. Merj Agudalia never fought Raif Salim. Bruce Carrington and Brendan Figueroa were also in tight talks to fight Raif Salim. They never gave him the opportunity. The only fighter that gave that gave Raif Salim a life-changing opportunity to fight was Angelo Leo, and and Raif missed the boat, and he wasn't professional. So you can't question if Angelo Leo would dunk Rafael Espinoza. Are you crazy? We love that fight. That's a fight, man. That's a fight we would love. And, if it happens in September, cool. If not, it can happen next year. But either way, the money or the life goes on, right? But, of course we want that fight. The legacy fight. Espinoza is a big name. There's a lot of hype behind him right now. We don't think he's the best featherweight in the world. We object to that very, very much, because we know what we have with Angelo Leo. So I'll dead it in the water there. I don't want to talk about it too much, because Angelo Leo has he has a lot of interviews coming up right now on different media platforms. So I'll let you guys hear from the man himself instead of hearing it from me. So I'll just leave it at that. But Henry Strival says, BT, do you think there was a strategy, offer Ali money on the back end to keep Leo out of the ring, then offer unification fight? To be honest with you, there's been a lot of things behind the scenes that have happened over the last, since Angelo won that belt. Part of me does feel that way. I do feel like there's a lot of powers that be trying to give themselves the best chance at beating Angelo, because regardless of what anybody else says, people in the fight game, the matchmakers, the promoters, the trainers of all these other fighters, they know what kind of challenge they know exactly what kind of challenge they're up against when they fight Angelo. So a part of me does feel that way, and I've even expressed that here in one of my videos about Mr. Honda and Dimiani, and I actually got messages in my Instagram from very powerful people, and they was going off on me for things I said and trying to correct me, and it's my belief, right? It's my even if it's not correct, I just believe that, because it's like he was the most active featherweight in the world before he won the title. He won the world title, and the activity stopped. Why is that? It ain't because of us. We want to fight. We want to show that what we are, and it's just not. It just hasn't been happening. It hasn't been happening. So don't worry, guys. I'm gonna leave it at this. I'm gonna leave it at that at this with Angelo, and I won't address any more because I don't I kind of want to just move on. But there's gonna be a whole smorgasbord of interviews coming up on all the big channels on YouTube. So as well as my channel, as well as Sean Tatel's channel, and all the big channels you can possibly think of in boxing. Angelo's about to start talking really, really loud. So just stay tuned the next couple days over the week, and you'll see the champ talk, and y'all can come to your own conclusions. You don't gotta always hear from your boy BT. But yeah, let me see. Shout out to Sebastian, the technician Santana. He says, "What are your thoughts on a potential Inoue versus Bam matchup?" To be honest with you, I mean, obviously they're both great fighters. I got a lot of respect for both guys. I think the fight's kind of unnecessary. I think it's another case of Ring Magazine and Turkey Al-Sheikh trying to manufacture a fight that's not there. It's not really there. Bam's a 15-pounder. Inoue's a 22-pounder. Inoue's talking about going to 26. Bam's talking about staying at 115 to be undisputed. So it doesn't really feel like an organically big fight. Of course, it is a big fight because of who these guys are on the sport, what they've achieved. But it just feels like they're trying to clutch at straws and make a matchup that really shouldn't be happening right now. Right now, Bam should be talking about going undisputed at 15, or challenging the big names at 118, or even fighting a guy at 122 like Cardenas or Sebastian Hernandez Reyes, something like that. But in a way, should be talking about going to featherweight, because he's been talking about it for a long time now, and he's not really moving. He's kind of tiptoeing and dragging his feet, and he, he's getting a pass for it because he's a great fighter and all these kind of things. And really, in a way, doesn't got to prove anything to anybody as far as his greatness. We all know he's a great fighter, but he's been talking about it for a long time now, and he's not really moving with the same urgency going up to 126 as he was other weight classes. So I just I'm not really a big fan of it, to be honest with you. I would like to see Bam probably move up a little bit more and win some fights if the fight was gonna happen, so it could happen organically. But who am I at the end of the day? Shout out to my man J-Dub, and shout out to all 30 of you guys here. Make sure you guys go ahead and smash the like button. I got 30 people here. I only got 9 likes. Run it up, man. Run it all the way up so the algorithms push this out to as many people as possible. It's great to be back. It's great to be here with you guys. It is True School After Dark. We haven't had much True School After Dark over the last 83 days because I was in camp. As you guys can see, I still got some of my shape from camp. Running and sparring and things like that. So, I definitely feel good. I look good. I'm locked in. I'm feeling like money and ready to continue to give you guys, great content and just great things even outside from YouTube content in boxing. Let me see. What do you think? So Leo should have knocked out Fulton. At 126, I think he would have, but Stephen Fulton had a belt at 126 and didn't want to do the rematch, so he went to 130. Bonjour says, what do you think of Inoue's boxing abilities against Junto? Is this Inoue performance concern you, or do you get more confidence for Angelo to potential to beat Inoue? As far as that last part, I didn't really need to see the Junto Nakatani fight to be confident in Angelo beating Inoue, because I know how good Angelo is at 126. I know where he's at. I've seen him spar, gangs of rounds in very, very tough conditions. And I know I know that you give Angelo a solid 8 to 10 weeks to train for a fight, he's gonna go in there and do his thing. So I didn't need to see that. But as far as Inoue, I mean, he's definitely not as fast. He's still fast, but he's not as fast as he was at 122 and 118. And I think a loss of speed and more weight on him is gonna force him to box more. And you saw in the last part of the fight, like from rounds 8 to 12, Junto had a lot of success when he did put some punches together and did commit to his shots and did run some volume on Inoue. So the concern should have been there from the Cardenas fight. If it wasn't there from the Cardenas fight, it should definitely be there now. If you're an Inoue fan and talking about him fighting not just Angelo, but a guy like Bruce Carrington or Brandon Figueroa or even Rafael Espinoza. Those are all they all those champions at 126. They all bring their own challenges to the table. And if I would personally, if I was Inoue's team, I would probably go the Bruce Carrington route. I think that's the best route to go if you're talking about Bruce Carrington or Figueroa. That's the best route to go if you're talking about winning a fifth division title. That's my opinion. Let me see. Shout out to everybody here. Let me sift through these comments. We got Bam versus Takuma. Yeah. See, to me, that's a fight that people should be talking about. Bam versus Takuma. Bam is talking about fighting in a way. So, and you're right near the weight class where his brother is a world champion. Why not do that fight? You beat Takuma. Boom. Now you got a storyline. Inoue has to get revenge for his brother. That's something to talk about. And Takuma, in his own right, is a damn good fighter. And we've seen in the past when it comes to Takuma Inoue is a guy that he loses to a certain style every time, and that style is these downhill volume punchers. Think about the guys like Nordine Ubali. Think about Seiya Tsutsumi. These are the guys that give Takuma Inoue problems. Now, Bam, he can be a downhill fighter, but he's not an outright downhill come forward fighter. He's a guy that fights you in angles. He works off his jab, and he's going to fight Takuma a bit more at distance, And so one thing we learned about Takuma over the years is that if you give Takuma that distance, he's a very hard guy to beat. He's a very classy fighter on the outside. So I like that fight. I think that's a good challenge for Bam, and I think it adds to the storyline of a potential Inoue versus Bam mega fight. But that's just me thinking out loud here. Shout out to Marlon Prince for acknowledging that because I'm with that. Sebastian says, did Inoue should move to 126? I think Inoue would be too much for Bam physically. I actually don't think that. A lot of people think that because Bam fights at 115 pounds. I've seen Bam. I've seen Bam a couple times when he's not in camp. Bam is wide. I think Bam would be just fine against Inoue in terms of from a physical standpoint. But I can see why people think that if they haven't seen Bam in person. Bam is a wide fighter, Top rank executives seem to be pushing against the Inoue 126 move. They are. You had Bob Arum and Todd DeBuff. So you had the leader and the vice leader, the president and the CEO both come out and say recently, for those of you who don't know, that they don't think it's a good idea for Naoya Inoue to fight at 126. But in my opinion, I think it's kind of funny because Bob Arum was just talking about Inoue going to 126 less than 6 months ago, less than a year ago. And now all of a sudden you want to keep him at 122 so you can continue to milk him and profit off of him like that. Like, nah, man. Manny Pacquiao is regarded is as great as he is because he defied the odds and he did things that physically seemed impossible. Same thing goes for De La Hoya, Floyd, and all the best fighters of all time. So why, I'm not hating on Inoue. I got Inoue right there. Inoue's been on my YouTube set for a while. A lot of you guys think I hate him and, all these things because of the Angelo Association. He's literally right there on my wall. So I love Inoue. But, why should he be exempt from the standards that Pacquiao and Floyd and Sugar Ray Leonard and all these great fighters that are boxer royalty? I feel like he should roll the dice. Even if, and listen, would I like it to be against Angelo? Biasly, of course, I would. But even if it's not Angelo, let's just say they feel Brandon Figueroa is the best guy out there for him. Then go fight Brandon Figueroa and roll the dice and become a 5-division champion. See, for me, whether it's against, if it's not going to be against Angelo, as a boxing fan and as a Naoya Inoue fan of, 11 years now? Because I've been covering Inoue on YouTube since I came in the game. Since 2015, I've been covering Inoue faithfully. So as an Inoue fan, if it's not against Angelo, I want to see him fight. I want to see him try to become a 5-division champion because there's less than 10 of those. You win that, you become a featherweight champion. It gives you the opportunity to really put your name in some rarefied air. And his name's already in rarefied air, but it takes it up a notch, right? So you get into boxing to make history, to test your limits. That's what it's about. When you go to the boxing gym and you're sparring you're sparring anybody, you go and you spar the best guys you can find. And maybe you might spar some guys that are bigger, that challenge you on a physical level. So it brings you up a gear. It might actually bring out another level in a way. So that's just kind of how I see it. Espinoza is easy to hit, especially with the left hook. Shh. Be quiet. Don't say that. Don't say it too loud. Sam from Promotions might listen to us. Shh. Don't say it too loud. Atif Overton did his thing against Gongora. I wish you would have gotten him versus Whitaker on the Zayas Ennis. Whitaker versus Atif Overton, I do think it's going to be one of the big fights at light heavyweight. I'm talking about a mega event. Like, I'm talking about, a fight where both guys get paid and typed up. But that, right now, I think it's still too early in the game. Atif Overton doesn't have the profile yet. Ben Whitaker doesn't have the American profile yet. So maybe like I would say in 18 to 24 months, these guys keep doing what they're doing. Both these guys, they become a champion. It could be one of the biggest fights in boxing just because of how they are, how they promote themselves and their style and things like that. But right now, I don't think it makes sense. Did Howard Foster strike again last Saturday? Worley had multiple times. Dan Dubois had Worley multiple times. Howard Foster is always a factor. Anytime you see Howard Foster, it's gonna be an occasion. Does the Junto fight give us a good idea of Inoue's potential at featherweight for UBT, with Junto being taller, longer arms, and a southpaw? It's not just that fight. I want to make it clear. It's not just that fight. It's that fight. It's Ramon Cardenas. I would say damn near most of his fights after Luis Neri give you a good indicator of what could be up there for him. So he's been saying it for like 2 years that he wants to build his body to go to featherweight. But if you look at Inoue's body, it's filled out. His body is filled out. He could fight there now. It's just they're trying to see the whole landscape. And maybe what I personally think too. I'm gonna put this out there, and you guys can feel free to do with it as you want. Rafael Espinoza is very big for the weight class. There's been rumblings of him, going up to 130 to explore fights with Vaquero Navarrete, right? Big Mexican fight. Bruce Carrington has been getting his eyes sunken in at the weight for a good amount of time now. And he hasn't had easy weight cuts at featherweight. So I don't even think he has that much longer left. And then Brandon Figueroa also is a big guy. Who knows how long he holds that weight. So what I'm saying is, it's not out the realm of possibility. You might get one of these champions to lose their title on the scale. And in fact, I'm going to make that prediction right here. My prediction for the featherweight division, and it won't be Angelo. Angelo's not going to lose his title on the scale. He's too professional. He makes weight easily. Man, he was eating watermelons like 2 hours before the weigh-in with Aleem, and he was doing pretty good. So it won't be him, but I'm gonna say Figueroa, Espinoza, or Bruce Carrington. I really believe in my heart of hearts, one of those three fighters by the end of this calendar year is gonna lose their title on the scale. That's a True School Sports exclusive prediction here first. You heard it here first. Atif still needs more adversity. He hasn't. Atif still needs more development. He hasn't really faced any adversity yet. I agree. He hasn't faced any adversity yet. He's been hitting these guys so far, and they've all been falling down. So I want to see Atif probably fight a stronger, sturdier guy. Personally, I think a fight that makes a lot of sense for Atif Overton. If I'm in a management position, I would make Atif Overton versus Imam Katayev. A guy that has fought David Morrell, strong guy, sturdy guy, big puncher. At some point, you got to see how Atif handles some real resistance in a big time puncher. And if he can make that statement against Katayev, a guy that a lot of people thought beat David Morrell Jr. and probably was a big contributing factor to why David Morrell got his ass beat by Zach Chelly over the weekend, then that right there will be a statement for him. And then you can talk about, okay, now you can talk about him maybe being in a world title fight sooner rather than later. How does Vaquero do against Espinoza? Isn't he too strong? Vaquero might shorten his career. I think that's a very bad fight for Espinoza. Listen, man, I would respect the ambition, I guess, to fight a tough guy. Because truthfully, to me, I think from 122 to 130, Vaquero might be the most dangerous guy out there. He's dangerous, man. He's tall, or he's lanky, he's rangy, he's awkward, he throws a lot of punches, he has heavy hands. He's a hard guy to beat. It's a hard not to work for anybody. I would favor Vaquero in that fight, but be a good one. I'm glazing like crazy. How am I glazing? I'm just telling you what I think. How am I glazing? I'm telling you what I think. Bruce Carrington. Go. Don't hate. I'm telling you what it is. And if I'm lying, go back and look at the weigh-ins. Bruce Carrington's eyes get real sunken in during the weigh-ins. He's been having a hard time. Espinoza is 6'1", so just mathematically speaking, biologically speaking, he's not going to make that weight forever, right? And Brandon Figueroa is pretty damn big. So I'm just saying this. That's what I believe. I think by the end of this calendar year, one of the other three featherweight champions is going to lose a title on the scale. Alex, I would love to see Bam fight Junto. I think that's a fight that boxing fans should have been clamoring for. They should have been talking about Bam versus Junto a long time ago, because Bam versus Junto, they're both younger guys. We've heard a lot about them fighting each other, and I told you guys that they were never going to fight, and I told you guys why. People say, oh, like whenever people get into the whole like Bam is ducking Junto or Junto ducking Bam, I'm like, that's how I know y'all don't know what you're talking about, because the reason they didn't fight is because of one man and one man only, and I don't gotta say his name, but y'all can answer the comments what I'm talking about, because I don't want to put people down. I'm not trying to put people down. I'm trying to lift people up, but you guys know why Bam and Junto won't fight. If you ever heard me talk about that fight, that potential matchup, you know why I feel that fight won't ever happen. Rafael Espinoza has had a fight since November. No one lined up to my knowledge. What is he doing? Is he waiting to be on the Canelo and Billy card? From all accounts, that's what has been laid out there. Espinoza is gonna fight on that Mexico versus the World card. And truth be told, I don't think he's gonna fight. Like everybody that's named, everybody that's been named and rumored to fight Espinoza, I don't think he's gonna fight any of those guys. I don't think he's gonna fight Brandon Figueroa. I don't think he's gonna fight Angelo. I think that's just Zamfir Promotions putting his name out there in the media to try to build off of the other champions and keep his name relevant while he's not fighting. Because Espinoza is not one of these guys that's gonna talk and be on Front Street. So they find other ways to keep his name hot and keep his name relevant. So I think Espinoza is gonna fight somebody from Japan. That's what I believe, because there's a lot of Japanese fighters ranked in the top 5 of the WBO or in the top 15 of the WBO, and I just think it's long overdue. So a guy like Ryota Muto or Ryota Owan, or just one of them guys in the top 15 from Japan and the WBO. I've been believing that Espinoza was going to fight one of those guys. Imam Katayev might hurt Atif. No, BT, not just yet. Dude was an Olympian. Well, look, at some point, I get it. I understand fighter development. I understand management very, very well. But at some point, you gotta have that step up fight for your fighter, and you gotta see what you got. You gotta take the safety off the proverbial Glock. And I just think that's one of the fights out there for him, And the reason I would take that fight, and I would be confident that Atif could win that fight, is because he fought a guy with a similar style earlier in his career. Obviously not with the pedigree as Katayev, but he fought Artem Brusov. Brusov has a very similar style to Imam Katayev. Strong, rugged, Eastern European fighter, and he dealt with him quickly and swiftly when they fought, or just dealt with him. He beat him. I can't remember how the fight went, but I remember him beating him and looking pretty good in that fight. I'm confident in Atif. I'm very bullish on Atif. There's not many fighters in America at this stage of their career that I've been bullish on. I've been the president of the Atif Overton American fan club for a long time now. So that's what it is. J-Dub says, Chris Algieri said on Inside Boxing Live that one of the reasons Aleem couldn't make the weight is because of the hotel water issue, and he couldn't lose weight in the tub. He could have went to another hotel, LOL. Well, it's funny that Chris Algieri said that, because yesterday, before I left the hotel, I actually saw Rais Aleem. So I actually saw Rais Aleem 2 times when I was at the hotel. I saw Rais Aleem around 2 in the morning when I was going up to my room. We happened to both be getting in the elevator at the same time, and I talked to him for 3 minutes. Then I saw him the next day as I was leaving the hotel, and it was just me. It was just me and him. It was just me and Rais Aleem and one of his coaches, and I talked to him for about 30 minutes, and he actually brought that up to me. And I told Rais Aleem, I said, look, I hear you, and it was a pain in the ass, because the elevators didn't work. The elevators didn't work, and then the elevators didn't work, so I had to walk up flights of stairs consistently throughout the week. There was a water issue, so a lot of people that were staying on the 4th and 5th floor had to vacate the rooms and go to another room. There was a whole bunch of issues with that hotel in Atlanta. But I told Rais, I said, even though we had all these issues, don't ever forget we stayed in the same hotel. Like it wasn't like Angelo was, at the Intercontinental downtown in some 5-star hotel and they put you in this crock of shit. No, we was both in the same crock of shit. We still made weight, so it's like you can't make that excuse. What happened on the scale wasn't because of the hotel. It was because of the 8 weeks leading up. So look, I wasn't part of his camp. I don't know what he was doing, but clearly there were some miscalculations and some things he did wrong. So it is what it is there. You should talk about the 126 champs not unifying instead of complaining about Inoue not moving up so fast. I've talked about that at length, ad nauseum. You guys keep telling me that I should talk about them unifying. I always talk about the featherweights unifying, and I've always said I want Angelo Leo to fight Bruce Carrington or Espinoza. I've always talked about I want to see Espinoza fight Bruce Carrington. There's gangs of videos on this channel and examples of me talking about the featherweights unifying. The reason I'm talking about Inoue moving up is because a lot of you guys are asking me about Inoue going to featherweight, and I'm telling you guys what I think about Inoue going to featherweight. And truth be told, the reason that we're forced to talk about it so much is because Inoue already cleaned out the whole 122 pound division. There's nobody left to fight at 122. So that's why I talk about it. You understand? If he had some like other challengers, some other big names at 122 to fight, then okay, I would understand. But he already beat the guys he needed to beat and then some. So that's why I'm talking about it. And then he says, "Facts, BT. You talk about it so much where I'm tired of the featherweight talks now. I'm tired of it too. I wish we could just run it right now. You think you tired of it? Imagine me." Espinoza and Carrington are the ones that hold the keys making these fights happen. They have the top rank behind them. People need to put pressure on them. That's what I'm saying. You guys come on here, not you guys, but some people in the world, they come on here and they get mad at me, and because unlike the rest of the featherweights, I'm open with you guys. I'm for the most part I'm transparent. And they're like, "Oh, well, Angelo got to do this." We're not in the power position. We don't got Top Rank behind us. We don't got that. That's Bruce. That's Espinoza. So if they want to fight, they gotta bang their hands on the table and really put the fights down. I can tell you guys with 100% confidence that they're not. It's not on their immediate to-do list as much as you may think it is. BT, be honest. If Inoue and his team asked Leo to fight next, would you tell Leo to take the fight? Would Leo accept? It really just depends. It's hard to say. It really just depends on what happens. I'm not going to speak too much on that because, I don't know who's watching. Right now I'm being very, very watched. I know right now I'm being very, very watched more than ever from a lot of people in boxing just because of what happened this weekend. So I'm not going to say too much on that. All I can say is make the offer and we'll evaluate and we'll see what's what. Obviously, it's a great fight. Obviously, it's a life-changing opportunity, but, make the offer. Since Leo has been out of the ring long, this is a perfect opportunity for Inoue. Yeah, that's how a lot of people feel. I mean, all I can say is if they really feel that way, make the offer and we can evaluate. That's all I can say. I'm not gonna get deep into it because I just found out today people who was like watching me, and I've gotten some emails from people, and I'm not gonna say too much. Just if you're out there, any one of you 32 are out there and you want to fight Angelo Leo, make the offer and let's see. BT, what's good? It's Koa. Shout out to Koa, my main man, 50 grand. Koa out there in New Mexico. Shout out to you and your father. Shout out to my man Brandon Holmes. Right? Do you think Leo not fighting Aleem will negatively impact his career? No, I don't. You see, I know I missed some comments. By the way, shout out to everybody here. Listen, there's 32 of you here. I got 13 likes, guys. What you guys doing, man? I'm coming here. I could be asleep. I could be working on other projects I got, but I'm here talking to you guys because I really fuck with my audience. I really like my audience. I really value my audience. Like a lot of y'all don't know how much y'all mean to me. So I'm here talking to you guys because I really want to see what's up. What you guys think? My man Stamp says Leo fears Rafael Espinoza. I mean, hey, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I actually think it's the other way around. Okay, let's say Leo, and do the fight have to be in the USA or are you willing to go to Japan? I'm not gonna answer that question on here because I don't know who's watching me. Make the offer to anybody out there. Make the offer, and we'll see what's what. That's not for me to say. I'm not the one making the decision, so I'm not gonna speak on behalf of Miguel Leo and Angelo Leo. You know, all I can say is make the offer. The track record shows you. Venata Lopez, Tomoe Kameda in Japan, first defense. Rai Salim, that contract was signed to fight Rai Salim, a guy that nobody was trying to fight. Stephen Fulton during the pandemic, when boxing needed big fights, Angelo gave boxing big fights. So the track record is there. If they feel like they can beat him, you go fight him and you see what's what. If Foster beats Ford, do you think Shakur will give Foster a shot? That's a good question. Honestly, if Shakur signs, if there's any truth to this rumor that Shakur Stevenson is signing with Super Boxing, if that contract is more than one fight, then that answer is no, absolutely not, because we know why fighters go to Super Boxing these days. But yeah, guys, on that note, look, I'm gonna say it like this. I'm gonna dead it in the water. I'm not gonna answer no more questions about Angelo Leo. If y'all got any questions about Angelo Leo, go ask Bruce Carrington. Go ask Inoue. Go ask Espinoza. Go ask those guys. Go ask their promoters. Right? Because those guys are the A side, right? So go ask them A side guys. Is boxing scene going down? People are talking like it's done so soon. I haven't looked into that. I've seen a lot of tweets today about boxing scene riders being laid off. I mean, look, right now, boxing journalism is in a very interesting place because a lot of the big media outlets they're bought up. It's a lot of propaganda going on in boxing right now. So I just think right now there really isn't much of a place for independent media that's not connected to these promoters and things like that, and they're being phased out. So it's a sad day for all people from boxing that are getting laid off. You hate to see that because I know a lot of good people that work for boxing scene, but it's just the sign of the times. Did you get to talk to Tito Mercado about him signing to Slita? He was at the fight commentating. I saw him. I was ringside. I saw him. He said what's up. He waved to me and Angelo ringside. Somebody asked me earlier too, what do I think about Ernesto Mercado signing with Salida Promotions? My thoughts on that are that I think it's good for him. For a lot of fighters, I don't think that would be a good signing, but for him, I think it's good because he's going to be a priority at Salida Promotions. With Matchroom Boxing, he's one of many. If he signs with any other promoters, he's one of many. Salida Promotions isn't one of the big four promotional companies, but they do have. I know that Dimitri Salida has good relationships with the IBF. He has good relationships with the WBA. I'm pretty sure that's the route that Mercado is going to explore. Him being with Salida and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes with Mercado. I want to see him involved in some big fights. I want to see him against. I would like to see Mercado versus Adam Azim. I would like to see him with just any name, any top name. He's a fun fighter to watch. I think there's value in him from a entertainment standpoint. I'm not sure how true it is, but I'm hearing that him and his father are hard to deal with. Whose father? Mercado's father? Whose father are you talking about, Cyrus? And by the way, Cyrus, where was you at, champ? I was looking forward to meeting you this weekend. You didn't show up. What's going on, champ? Do you think Angelo Leo needs a better promoter? I feel like them not winning the purse bid really hurt the fight and put you all in a bad situation. I'm not going to answer the first part because I'm not going to get in trouble, but I'm sure you could guess my answer. All I'll say is, yeah, I think they it did put him in a bad situation, but The good thing is we're gonna take matters into our own hands here, and Angelo's gonna start getting very vocal here very shortly. So just stay tuned. All I'm saying is, guys, just stay tuned in the coming days. You're gonna see. He says, "Bruh, I tried. It's all good. It's all good. I know life happens. There's been a lot of times where I wanted to go to fights and I can't go because things come up in my own life. So I get it. There's more to life than just boxing." He says, "You is too paranoid, bro." I'm not paranoid. What am I paranoid about? Y'all can't really tell me what the fuck I am or I'm not. You're not the one in this shit. I'm the one that's actually in this shit. So you can't really tell me what I am and when I'm not. You don't got to deal with all the bullshit that comes behind the scenes in boxing. BT, any thoughts on David Jimenez versus Ayumu Sano? It's funny you mentioned that. That's actually a fight. I know it's coming up soon. I think it's coming up, like in a week or two? It's been on my list to make a video about for a long time, so I got to do my own separate video about it. But good fight, man. I had a chance to meet Ayumu Sano at the WBA convention. I actually interviewed him, and he's one of these guys. He's very ambitious. He wants to fight Junta Nakatani. He wants to fight Tenshin. He wants to show that he's one of the best, fighters from 115 to 118. I think it's an awesome fight. David Jimenez is a guy that hasn't really gotten a lot of fanfare. I haven't even, guys, I've never made a David Jimenez video, right? But I know how good of a fighter he is, and he's gonna get his own video soon. But like, he beat Ricardo Sandoval before Sandoval was champion. Baron Rodriguez didn't want no smoke with him, and that being said, I mean, Sano, from the little bit I watched, because I watched him after I met him back in December. He's long and he's rangy for the weight class. Boxes very well from the outside. He's a traditional Japanese fighter, right? So I think for him, the key to the fight is just not keeping your head on that center line too long, because Jimenez will catch you. But I think it's a great fight. I think if Sano can get through this test, I would count it as a big feather in his cap, because this is a guy, Jimenez, who has beaten Ricardo Sandoval, who a lot of people thought beat Artem Dalakian, who also was avoided by Baron Rodriguez, right? Quiet as kept. Beat the shit out of John Scrappy Ramirez. So this is actually probably one of, if not the most underrated guy in this weight class. He doesn't get talked about enough. I haven't even talked about him, right? And I pride myself on making videos about the entire weight class, right? So the smaller weight classes. So yeah, really good fight. Probably one of the better fights out right now, if I'm being honest. All right, Cyrus. So hopefully I see you at the next one, whichever the next one is. Has any other fighter offered you to go to camp with them? Have they? No, nobody as of right now. I mean, the only two fighters I've ever really been in camp with for was Yugo Osaki, who I don't really talk to no more, because that's that honestly, that could be a 5-hour live. I could go on and on about that, but I don't want to talk negatively about anyone. I got a lot of love for that kid. So if he decided that he just wanted to stop talking to me, that's on him. It's not on me. I did everything I could for the kid. And right now it's just Angelo. But there's other fighters I'm very close to. So I mean, if they ever asked, and I would definitely consider it. But I love going to training camps. I think it's great. I think it's great to film study and assist these guys where I can. And it's awesome. It really makes boxing that much more real for me, and gives me more insight into all these things. Who do I think wins Ricardo Sandoval versus Galaya fight? That's a great question, man. I'll tell you this: if Ricardo Sandoval leaves this fight as close as he left Kenshiro, he's not getting no decision, because unlike Japan, the UK will always give the close fight to the UK fighters. So he better go out there and give a dominant performance. Otherwise, they will give it to Galal. But I like Sandoval more than Galal. I think he's a better fighter than Galal. He also too, it's really hard to gauge where the hell Galal Yafai is at when you consider the fact that Galal Yafai just got the brakes beaten off him by Francisco Rodriguez Jr. So you don't really know where he's gonna be at, in terms of mentally, in terms of physically, all these things. So you gotta look at that. Bonjour says Inoue fighting at Dodger Stadium. I feel is the final major move for Inoue. I feel that that'll be the first fight in the featherweight, depending if the Bam fight does not happen. I would love that. I would love to fight. I would love to see. I would love to fight for Angelo to fight Inoue at Dodger Stadium. That'd be sick. Or even if it's not him, just any. I would love Inoue to fight at Dodger Stadium. And it's funny you bring up Dodger Stadium because I asked Bob Arum about Inoue fighting at Dodger Stadium back in 2024. And Bob pretty much said, no, that's not really an option because it costs too much money, which I believe is probably true. But again, Inoue has become a much bigger star in boxing since I asked him that question. Remember, guys, I want you guys to understand something about these fights. Because to put together a big championship fight, there's a lot of factors that are in play here. First of all, you got the fighter purses. Then you got the site fees. Then you got the TV involved. Then you got taxes. So a lot of times, certain states have different taxes. Like, for example, a big reason why New York City doesn't get as much big-time boxing as they used to get is because there's a TV tax in New York, right? That exists there that doesn't exist in places like Nevada or just other places where they normally have fights in America. So that's why a lot of times New York City does not get as many big fights as they used to because of this TV tax and then high taxes in general and all that stuff. So and then when you talk about Dodger Stadium is a high profile venue. You're talking about 50,000 plus seats. So I would imagine that the site fee would be insane to fight at Dodger Stadium. So remember, the promoter, if the site fee is high, the promoter has to find a way to make more money on fight night that exceeds the site fee and the fighter purses, so they can come out ahead in the green. So it's very hard to do. It's very hard to turn over a profit in boxing. I don't think people really understand how hard it is to turn over a profit in boxing, on any level, on the club show level, on the championship level, on any level. It's very, very hard to come out in the green because there's so many expenses, from fighter purses to the taxes to just all that stuff. So that's why when you get a guy who's an economic draw in boxing that can turn it that can put the promoters in the green and put the boxing game in the green, it's a very big deal. Shout out to Frontline. Good to see you, champ. Hope all is well. Why hasn't the IBF done anything about the 140-pound belt and the one they stripped from Jai? They are just sitting there vacant. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I know Landolfo Delgado was ordered to fight Teofimo Lopez for the belt. Last time I checked, after Lopez declined and declared a move to 147, Delgado was supposed to be aligned to fight the Chechnyan Wolf, Artur Biarslanov. So I haven't heard anything about that since I talked about it about 2 weeks ago. But we'll see if we get any updates. But shout out to everybody here. It is your boy Brendan Taylor, True School Sports, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. True School After Dark. It's been a long time since I did one of these in my room, so I'm happy to be doing it on the lot. Back on the actual set. Make sure you guys go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Definitely super chat, and I appreciate all the support. The support that I've been getting this year has been immense. I feel like God is really like graduating me to new levels in boxing, because it's just crazy the things that I'm involved with this year. I'll tell you guys a funny story. I won't say who, but like recently when I was during fight week, I was talking to somebody from the Salida Promotions social media team, and I asked them a very specific question about something, and then they wound up sitting me down with like these 3 really powerful like Jewish boxing executives that are worth like tens and millions of dollars, and I talked to them for a while. Like really powerful people. I'm talking about dudes that used to work at HBO and shit like that, and it was crazy. I felt like it was probably one of the most nerve-wracking things I've been a part of in boxing. But yeah, it's just crazy. Hold on. IBF does have a convention on May 27th. I guess they'll announce it then. Yep, the IBF convention is coming up on May 27th in Vietnam. So It's way out there in Vietnam of all places. So I mean, we'll see what they say at the new IBF convention. Bonjour says, I've read to tell you that NOA is now sponsored by a major bank in Japan, so the Dodger Stadium has become more real and real by each passing day. Well, I didn't know that, so thank you for the information. Which bank is it? Do you know which bank it is? He has a lot of major sponsors in Japan. I mean, he's sponsored. I'm pretty sure he's sponsored by Family Mart, because every time he fights, the only time I really ever see the Family Mart logo on the ring is when he's fighting. And Family Mart is for those of you who've never been to Japan. I mean, I got the Family Mart sign right there. Family Mart is a juggernaut of a convenience store in Japan, and so that's no small deal. He's sponsored by them, NTT Docomo, who's like the T-Mobile of Japan, like them. A lot of people. So he's got money behind him. BT, do you think we see Gabriela Fundora versus Mizuki Hiruta soon? I'll be honest with you, champ. I would love that fight, but I'm not even gonna lie to you. And I'm just gonna say it like this, guys. I've been checked out of women's boxing for like 3 years. Like I know the big fights. I watch the big fights. I pay attention to the big fights, but like I don't really cover women's boxing like I used to, unless it's like a big fight. But if they made that fight happen, Mizuki Hiruta versus Gabriela Fundora would be an amazing fight. Two really dynamic southpaws. I would favor Gabriela Fundora just because Gabriela Fundora is a badass. I mean, it's hard for me to really see. And again, take it with a grain of salt, because when it comes to women's boxing, I am a casual these days. I know who Ellie Scottney is. I know Cyrus asked me about Ellie Scottney. She's really good. Mizuki Hiruta is really good. Gabriela Fundora is really good. But like, I'm not clued in like most of you guys are in women's boxing, because my main focus, 3 years ago when I made a conscious decision to really step up my Japanese boxing coverage, something had to be sacrificed, and that's what I chose to sacrifice, was my women's boxing coverage. Or so now I just cover it kind of sparingly when there's something worth talking about, so I have more time and more energy to cover Japanese boxing. Remember, I'm only one man. I do a good job, but I'm only one man. I can't really care much about women's boxing. I try to watch just in case anyone is cool. I mean, it's funny, right? So Alicia Baumgartner, she's been getting a lot of flack for avoiding Alicia Baumgartner or Caroline Dubois. Baumgartner's been getting flack for avoiding Caroline Dubois, and it's funny because Steve Kim had a great line. He said, Alicia Baumgartner is ducking Caroline Dubois, and they're marinating the fight. Maybe women's boxing has made it, because, bro, you couldn't do this shit 3 years ago in women's boxing. 4 years ago, you couldn't marinate no fights in women's boxing. You had to fight the best people in the division to make money. So now we reached the stage where MVP Promotions and Jake Paul, they're pumping money into women's boxing. You got TV networks, really advocating for women's boxing and things like that. So maybe women's boxing is getting big enough to where these girls can duck each other and marinate fights. Ain't that some shit? Oh, Caroline Dubois, I know very well Caroline Dubois. I've seen her fight a couple of times. She's really good. I think that would be a very tough test for Alicia, especially after what I seen last time. Because when we were in camp, one night when we was eating, the Alicia Baumgartner fight was on, so I was watching it one night. She fought the Korean girl, and that Korean girl wasn't that technically sound, but that Korean girl she fought, she was really rugged, and she would come forward, and she gave Baumgartner some fits, and she wasn't even that good. Like, skill wise, she wasn't that good. She was well conditioned. She was determined. She was determined. She had a willingness to win, but she was very, very sloppy, and she gave Baumgartner's problems. So I have no doubt in my mind that Caroline Dubois would be a very hard night to work for Alicia Baumgartner, and so does she, and that's why she's moving like that. SBI, it's like the Bank of America of Japan. Okay, SBI. I'm gonna look into that. SBI. Look into that. Cyrus says there ain't nothing wrong with specializing, BT. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Japanese boxing coverage is very meaningful to me. It's extremely meaningful work to me. So, I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing. It's worked out really well, and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm feeling very fulfilled in my life. And the best thing that any man could have is to be fulfilled in his work and what he's doing. So that's that. And speaking of that, I'm looking very forward to going to Japan later on in the year. I would have been in Japan. It's really crazy how everything played out because I was supposed to go to Japan for the Inoue Nakatani fight, but I decided not to go to Japan to go to the Angel Leo fight, and the Angel Leo didn't even wind up fighting. So it's crazy how that works. But nonetheless, I will be in Japan sometime between September and December for my yearly trip to Japan. And it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to getting more content for you guys. There was a couple of Japanese fighters that I was supposed to interview last time I was out there, but it just never lined up. Like I was supposed to interview Hayato Tsutsumi and Masamichi Ibuki. We communicated in the DMs, but our schedule just never lined up. So this time when I go to Japan, those guys will be the first on the list. Kenshiro, I always talk to Kenshiro when I go over there. Say it's Tsutsumi, him. Seiko Yuriakui is a friend of the program. So, lot of things to go and handle in Japan. Jin Sasaki, of course, Jin Sasaki's part of the team. He was part of the team for this fight. He was part of the camp for this fight early on. He's supposed to fight in Hachiochi on September 21st. So who knows if it all lines up and nothing interferes. I would like to be in Japan for Jin Sasaki's next fight in Hachiochi. He's doing a hometown fight September 21st in Hachiochi. So I would like to be there for that. Shout out to my main man Joel. Shout out to Joel. It's good to see you in the chat, my friend. I hope all is well. Better late than never. Luckily for you, man, I got a lot of energy. I'm very happy to be home. So shit, we might fuck around and just ramble on for. We might ramble on for 3 hours today. This might be a 3-hour live. You guys might get 3 hours out of me today. As long as the chat stays lit and things keep going how they're going right now, you might get 3 hours out of me because I mean, there's so much things to talk about. I'm fired up. I'm happy. I feel good. I feel strong. I feel like money. I'm locked in. So it's great. We might have 2 hours left. Shout out to my boy Kato with the first and hopefully not the last super chat of the live. He says, "I'm glad to have you back, BT. My sympathies to Angelo and the rest of the team. Rais Defeats Aleem had to go and waste everybody's time." Yeah, and he put everybody in a real tough predicament because I want you guys. Okay, I'm gonna put you guys in our shoes, and I'm gonna ask what you would have done. All right, just hear me out for a second, and I want to see what you guys gotta say. So, imagine your promoter loses the purse bid to a fight, right? And then imagine they change the venue on you multiple times, and then imagine that pretty much like the promoter of the guy you're fighting, who's not even a big name, wins the purse bid, right? And then you're a world champion. You're a two-time world champion, right? You're a two-time world champion, and you're getting paid $140,000 for a world title defense. And mind you, yeah, Angelo might get paid $140,000, but he's gonna take home way less than $140,000 because of taxes and paying people on his team and things like that. So, and Rais Aleem's not a big name, so. Was it really worth it? I don't think so. And it's not like, we know Rice very, very well. So it's not like, it wasn't this crazy hard fight. It just wasn't worth it. Why do it? He missed weight. We've seen plenty of fighters. Look at Devin Haney. Devin Haney fought Ryan Garcia. Look what happened to him. Look at Oscar Duarte. Angel Fierro came in overweight. He didn't look so good. Now his stock is down. In fact, Angelo already went through all this. When he fought Aaron Alameda back in 2021, Aaron Alameda came in 1 3/4 pounds over the super bantamweight limit. So it isn't our first time. It ain't our first barbecue going through a situation where a fighter misses weight. So we've been here before. That's what a lot of people don't understand. We've been here before. So we know how these things can go. So I think the correct decision was made. We don't owe Rice anything, and the fight wasn't even put on by Angelo's own promoter, and he wasn't getting paid that much. So I'll tell you right now, now you're in a way, and nobody else. You put them in that same situation, they're not fighting nobody for no $140,000. If they miss weight. Does Ken Shiro have a fight? And by the way, Kato, once again, thank you for the super chat. Does Ken Shiro have a fight lined up? I haven't heard a damn thing about Ken Shiro having anything lined up. Your guess is as good as mine. Has the IBF reached out? As of right now, I mean, not really. Not really. we're actually gonna reach out to the IBF soon ourselves and see what's up, because we want to see where the heads are at, because the IBF is crazy. The IBF is, I love the IBF. It's my favorite belt in boxing, but man, they are strict. So we want to check the temperature and see where they're at. I feel they should do the Dodger Stadium because Inoue pay-per-view sales in Japan is enough to break even on cost for everyone. It also Inoue and Shohei in the same room. Yeah, if they're gonna do the Dodger Stadium fight, I think it's gonna have to be an actual like top name, like not a Ramon. With all due respect, not like a Ramon Cardenas. It has to be, I think so. Let's just say they're gonna do Inoue at Dodger Stadium. It's gonna have to be either A. Maybe you could do the Junto Nakatani rematch, and maybe you could bank on a bunch of Japanese Americans and or Japanese people going to the fight, because the biggest population of Japanese Americans or just Japanese people in America, period, are in LA and the Bay Area, which is crazy to me because Inoue's never fought in LA or the Bay Area, and I think it's been very, very underutilized not having a guy like Inoue fight in the Bay Area or LA. Because if I was in a promotional position and Inoue was my fighter and I had the money to do all that, man, I would have had Inoue in the Bay Area back in 2019, 2020 when he first signed with Top Rank. So I felt like they really missed the boat on that in terms of making him a big commercial American star. Because if they would have did it properly, if they would have fully played their cards right, by this time, Inoue could have been fighting at Dodger Stadium and Oracle Park and where the Giants play as well. And he could have been the first ever real transnational Japanese box office boxing superstar. That's kind of how I see it. But nonetheless, yeah, if you do fight him, I think a Mexican or Mexican American fighter would be ideal, because due to the Mexican American population of LA. So Espinoza, Angel Leo, Brandon Figueroa, those fights make sense if you want to do Dodger Stadium. Ken was post-fight banned too, but it never came to fruition. Well, yeah, because Waldo Garcia was over here faking injuries and things like that, and I feel like he faked. Listen, if a fighter really is dehydrated, they shouldn't be in the team hotel the next day eating at the buffet. They should be in the hospital, getting better. Top Rank has done a horrible job promoting Davis versus Albright. It looks like half the seats are still unsold for the event. Well, I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes, because there's a strong possibility I'll be there covering it, because it ain't too far from me. So I might go check it out. Because you got Brian Norman Jr. on the undercard. I'm a big fan of Brian Norman Jr. I know his dad pretty well. I like Brian Norman Jr. And then Pistol Pete Dobson is fighting Kelvin Davis, and I'm very good friends with Pistol Pete Dobson. So you got interesting fighters on the undercard that I like and have relationships with. Have had here on the channel. I also do like Keyshawn Davis. I'm a Keyshawn Davis fan. I'm a big Nahir Albright fan. I think Nahir Albright is one of the craftiest fighters in the game today. I think there's a lot of really high level things he can do in the boxing ring, and it's been showing throughout the duration of his career against Jermaine Ortiz and Carlos Balderas, and most recently against Frank Martin. So I'm intrigued to see how he's going to do in the rematch, because he had some success against Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis, I had a chance to speak to him briefly when he was in the MGM Grand Media Room when I was covering Benavidez versus Zotto, and he said, "Look, when I fought him the first time, I was smoking. I wasn't living the Gali life. I wasn't living like how I'm living now. I'm a different person now. I'm living different now, and I'm gonna put belt to ass on old boy." So that's how he's coming. That's how he's approaching this fight. I want to see it, because even though he might feel he's better since that fight, I also feel like Nahir Albright has gotten better since that fight, because Albright has gotten better experience. He's been fighting better people, getting different looks. So he's also coming to this fight himself different. So to me, people were shitting all over this fight with Davis and Albright. I don't think it's a bad fight. I like the fight. Shout out to Chris V. He says, "Hey BT, I'm glad to see you back, man. I'm sorry what happened to the team over the weekend. It was a shit show, and I had a chance to talk to Rais Salim for a combined 35 minutes, because I saw him one night for 3 minutes, and then I talked to him for like 30 or 40 minutes yesterday. And he's obviously, very, very regretful for what happened. But, at the end of the day, no matter what he says, it's gonna sound like bullshit. And honestly, he wasn't a professional, and he shit the bed when it counted the most. So that being said, that's his cross to bear. If he never wins a world title or challenges or gets to that level again, only he can. He has to deal with that for the rest of his life. And on top of that, part of me also feels like that this was. I don't want to say, yeah. I kind of feel like he was banking on Angelo taking the fight because that's normally what happens in boxing. But no, like we've been through this before, so we know how this goes. You signed a contract to fight at the featherweight limit, not the super featherweight limit. And it's crazy because I asked Rai Salim, I asked the man to man, I said, hey man, are you gonna go to 130? Like you couldn't make you were basically a super featherweight when you weighed in. Are you gonna go to 130? And he's like, nah, he still wants to stay at 126. He still believes and is confident that he can win a world title at 126. So we'll see how it goes. But I'll tell you one thing right now, unless he gets a belt, he ain't fighting Angelo Leo. Hell no. So go get a belt. Go beat one of these other guys that didn't want to fight you. That where the fights fell through. Because every other champion, Bruce, Rafa, Brandon, he was in talks to fight all these guys, and he got close to fighting them. And then for some reason, the talks broke down, and their team went another direction. So that's what he's gonna have to go do. But Rohan Polanco and Norman fighting the same month is curious. That's a great fight, and that's a fight that I think Top Rank's going to look to make at some point. I think Rohan Polanco versus Brian Norman Jr. is probably one of the best fights you can make in the welterweight division in terms of excitement, in terms of action. But truthfully, if we're just talking about a big fight, I'm still holding out hope that Brian Norman Jr. and Teofimo Lopez could get it on at 147 because Teofimo Lopez is going to 147. Teofimo Lopez and Brian Norman Jr. was a fight that was supposed to happen. It was offered to Teo when Norman first got that belt, and Teo decided to turn it down and go another direction. So if they can circle the block, spin the block, and come back to that, I'll be over the moon about it. So we'll see. The welterweight division is an interesting place, and mind you, I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up and say that my main man Jin Sasaki is gonna get ranked soon. He just won the OBPF title. That generally gives you ranking position in the top 15. So you're gonna see Jin Sasaki come back into the top 15, and he'll be in line for some big fights. I don't think his next fight will be a big fight because I think they're gonna pick a beatable opponent for his next fight in Japan, which I'm not against because then it gives Jin time to come to America and work on some of the new ideas that he showed a little bit of in that Sora Tanaka fight, right? And I was very proud of him. Going back and rewatching the fight again, I think I was being very, very fair to Sora Tanaka. I thought upon a second rewatch, I thought Jin beat him 7-3, boxed the shit out of him. Honestly, I didn't see it that way the first time because I was giving Sora Tanaka a lot of credit, but Jin was more the ring general and did a great job fighting at range in this fight for a guy who's not known for fighting at range. So I think there was a lot of positives, and I'm thinking he fights Hachiochi, wins that fight, and then maybe later on, like in the first quarter of 2027, get Jin Sasaki in a fight against a top 15 guy with a name, and then we'll see what's up. What's the Bay Area? The Bay Area is San Francisco. San Francisco, Oakland, that whole area, that part of Northern California. That's the Bay Area. The upcoming Anthony Olascuaga fight needing a 135,000 crowd is insane and is genuinely unbelievable. Well, hey, a lot of people are shitting on the event because for some reason, boxing fans, they say they like boxing, but they always shit on people trying to do things in the sport. Anytime somebody, whether it be a fighter or a promoter or someone states that they want to do something big and different in the sport, they start shitting on it rather than just supporting, rather than being congratulators, they be out here hating, right? So, look, I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to draw even 3% or 5% of that 135,000 because I'm not delusional. Like, I like Anthony Olascuaga. I think he's an awesome fighter. He's fighting Andy Dominguez, who I'm happy to see get an opportunity because I've been knowing Andy Dominguez since 2021 during my visits to Ismail Salas's gym. Very good fighter, a good fighter. I think he's a bit smaller, so it's a calculated voluntary defense for Olascuaga. They're banking on the fact that they feel that Olas Kuwaga will overwhelm Andy Dominguez. So that's why I took the fight. So I like the fight. In fact, I'm planning on going to that fight. Me and Angelo Leo have actually discussed attending that fight as fans because, Angelo loves the Bay Area. I love the Bay Area. We've been talking about going to the Bay Area for a little bit of time now. So if any of y'all pull up to that fight, we'll probably be out there for that fight. I got a lot of love and respect for both fighters. So I hope it turns into a great event. It's going to be the first ever card from this new IVB boxing, and they've stated that they want to break the record for the American outdoor attendance of 135,000, which I think is a very ambitious task when you consider that boxing is already a niche sport and Canelo Alvarez doesn't even do that. But then you're going to get the guys that are, flyweights to do that. So, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I really don't know how they're going to do that, but I look forward to seeing them do that. At first, I thought the event was going to be free. I thought it was going to be free. Now I'm hearing that it's not free, and they're going to go ahead and charge like $6,000 for ringside seats or something like that. So, I mean, good luck to them. Good luck to them. I believe they should promote it with Bay Area athletes like Alyssa Liu, Andre Ward. I hope it does well, but they need a superstar level promotion and add more events alongside the fight. I agree with that. If you're gonna do this fight in Olas Kuwaga versus Dominguez, it's gonna be a main event. And it's gonna need promotion, cross promotion from things that have nothing to do with boxing. And I'll tell you this, man. If you got Alyssa Liu ringside, I'm there. I'm there, champ. I love me some Alyssa Liu. I might go ahead and just shoot my shot at Alyssa Liu. See what's up. See if she wants to touch the untouchable. Carol J. Lozano says, "Hey BT, Carol here. Why did you block me on Twitter? I'm a big fan." Cause I was in camp, man. You was agitating me. You was making threats online, and I didn't appreciate that, champ. You was saying what you was gonna do, and I didn't appreciate that. I was in camp. I was already on edge about a bunch of shit, and you over here making threats. So I mean, hey, it is what it is. God bless you. Good to see you here. I won't block you here as long as you don't get out of pocket. But I'm better now. You caught me at a time where I was very on edge, and I just wasn't trying to hear it from nobody. I didn't have a very high tolerance level. So he said, Alyssa used to box when she was young. I didn't know that. See, I didn't know that. Alyssa Liu, I didn't know that she was a boxer. So that right there, that right there, already just makes me like her more, that much more. So I might have to go ahead and shoot my shot. They said, BT, how do I pull me some Asian baddies? Well, look, man, the first you already made a mistake there because you can't be calling these girls baddies. You can't be pedestalizing any certain race. You start doing that, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. See, you got to know who you are in life, and you gotta tell yourself that you gotta tell yourself that you deserve nice things. You got and inevitably things will just fall into place. So that's what I'll say there. Don't pedestalize any nationality of these girls. They're all the same. They all put their pants on the same way. Just be yourself, champ. Some are gonna like you, some are not. And it is what it is. It's just the law of averages. Are you going to Xander's camp for the rest of his camp? Nah, I don't. I mean, I like Xander. I've interviewed him a couple of times. He is from South Florida, but we're not cool to that degree. We're cool on a professional level, but it's not like a camp type thing. In fact, pound for pound, I won't say much. I won't say much because I believe it or not, I actually am neutral for that fight. If Jaron Ennis beats the shit out of Xander Zayas, then I'll be happy for him because it's finally what I thought he should have been doing years ago, being in these kind of fights and performing on the highest level. But if Xander wins, obviously I'll be happy for Xander too, because Xander is from the South Florida area, and I did see him in the gym when he was a kid and things like that. So I really, believe it or not, I actually don't have a dog in the race like many people think. But I'll tell you this, pound for pound, and I'll pass along a little bit of a tidbit of information from you. I got a call the other day from somebody very, very close to the Boots camp, and they were asking if I knew a particular fighter, because Boots might be sparring that particular fighter in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'll say 2 weeks to a month. So but the person that called me, they didn't want to tell me that the sparring was for Boots because they thought that I was the ops, and I'm like, bro, I'm not the ops. I don't really give a fuck about that fight. I mean, I care about it as a reporter for my job, but like it's not like a Angelo Leo fight or Yugo Osaki or like somebody that I know on a personal level. So it's not like I'm that vested in it. If Jaron Ennis needs help for sparring and I know the person, who am I to not help a great fighter like Jaron Ennis? So, you know, that'd be cool. That'd be cool if he spars the person that they call me for. I'd be very happy, you know? And I'll just leave it at that. I won't tell you who it is. I won't tell you what weight class they fight in. I won't tell you what nationality they are. And I'm not going to tell you the record. I'll just tell you that I got a phone call about 5 to 6 days ago from somebody very close to the Boots camp that I'm friends with. And they asked for some sparring for Boots. So I'll leave it at that. And I told him, because he said, oh, BT, you're the ops. And I'm like, nah, I'm not the ops. You think I'm the ops because I have strong opinions, because I'm a lot of the times I'm just responding to Jaron Ennis fans coming at me crazy. But I don't really, like, I don't care to that degree. Now, if it was like somebody that I knew on a personal level that like I'm really close with, then it's a different story. Then I really am the ops. And I'm the worst type of ops to have. You don't want to be fighting someone that I'm cool with. I'm part of the team. I'll tell you that right now. Tell Angelo Leo to unify. You know, I've told him to unify, and we all want to unify. But do you guys realize if I could bang the table and tell Angelo unify, it doesn't matter. You know that like there's promoters and there's and then the other fighters have promoters too, and they gotta want to fight. Carol says, BT sweet, I'm his op. I mean, if you say so, champ. You know, just I'm telling you, you're catching me on a good day today. You're catching me on a good, but see, if you catch me like on one of them days when I blocked you, then it's gonna be a problem. BT, I just saw the rankings and Opataya is ranked number 1 by the WBA. That Benavidez has. Do you think we could see David defend against Jai, and could we see this fight the WBA and Zuffa are both on board? I'll speak from my perspective. I don't see Zuffa Boxing working with any of the belt organizations, and the reason why I don't see that is because I know one of the main matchmakers at Zuffa, and I know one of the main executives at Zuffa Boxing, right? And I've spoken to them. I've spoken to them about what their stance is on world title fights, like sanctioning body world title fights, and they've made it very clear to me that they are not interested in the alphabet belts. So if they are not interested in the alphabet belts, and they told me that, I have to trust their word. And we've seen what's happened with Opataya. We've seen Hitchens vacate the title, so all the signs point to that. So to answer your question in plain English, no, I don't see that. But it'd be nice. I want to see. I would like to see. What's his name. Opataya and Benavidez fight. You know. But there, like I said, like I just said with Angelo, there's other things at play in boxing besides just the fighters wanting to fight. It's not as simple as you guys think it is. Aren't you Puerto Rican, BT? Yes, I am. But like I said, if fighters ever come to me, as long as it's not going to affect like Angelo Leo or like any of the guys that we have in camp or any of the fighters that I know on a personal level, if I can help fighters out, I will. I like I'm a very giving person. Like I love helping people if I can. So if anybody calls me and I can help, I will. And to be honest with you, if Boots spars the guy that they call me to spar, oh my God, then fuck, I might have to get on the Boots bandwagon of him beating the brakes off Xander. I'll tell you that if they actually do wind up sparring. But I'll just leave it at that. BT, I need your expert opinion on Jack Catterall versus Giashov. Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert. You know, I know a little bit sometimes. But as far as Catterall and Giashov, that's gonna be a boring ass fight. I feel like that's probably gonna be a very boring ass fight, especially when you factor in that Jack Catterall, he left the Boots Ennis camp, which I think is very stupid. I thought Bozy Ennis was getting the best out of Jack Catterall because that's what the fuck Bozy Ennis does. People like to shit on Bozy Ennis because Andy Cruz lost, but look at Jarrell Miller. Look at Jaron Ennis. Look at Stephen Follin. You know, when people didn't think much of Stephen Follin at that time. Bozy has been getting a good tune out of certain fighters, right? And Catterall, I thought, was the best example of that because he was a guy that wasn't known for being an aggressive fighter or a guy that was punching through the target. And he was getting knockdowns. He looked great with Bozy when he beat who was the British guy he fought? He fought Ekal Esserman. He beat the brakes on Ekal Esserman. So I'm not too fond of non-Bozy Ennis-less Jack Catterall fighting Giashon. I think it's be a boring fight. As far as who I think will win, Catterall on points, maybe in a boring fight. I don't know who the favorite is. I haven't looked at the odds, but I'll say Catterall on points. I don't think Giashon's that good. I'm ready for this Karen versus Patty Donovan fight. We're gonna see what. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be Judgment Day for a lot of you Jerron Ennis fans, because y'all been talking about Karen for a long time, and we're gonna see if Karen really is the goods. You know, Patty Donovan, I think, is a good fighter. He just mentally, he lets himself down a lot of these fights, but he has the skill set to really do some good things in the sport. So we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes with Karen and Patty. It's an intriguing week of boxing because we got Karen versus Patty Donovan. We got Keyshawn Davis against Albright, and then we also got the return of Philip Hrgovic. Still a guy that I still feel has a chance to be heavyweight champion, even if many people don't believe it. I'm still holding out some hope for Philip Hrgovic. And listen, Daniel Dubois got that title. I mean, I doubt that he fights Hrgovic next, because I think they'll probably do Mosey Tama. It's a bigger fight commercially. It's a UK domestic blockbuster fight. But Daniel Dubois, if you want some smoke, come call the Croatian sensation. I would love that fight. And I would, if that fight's in the UK, I would love to go to that fight and go support Hrgovic. Do I think Edwin De Los Santos sparks Raul Valenzuela again next month? That's a good question. Honestly, he could, but I would bet against it, just because I do believe that he fought. Didn't he fight? Has he had am I tripping? I think Edwin De Los Santos, has he had a fight on Zuffa Boxing yet? Because I'm pretty sure if they fight, it's going to be him coming off some inactivity. But if I'm wrong, correct me. Inactivity is a real thing. Raul's been active. I think Raul's also learned a little bit since that fight. So I would hedge. I would say maybe Raul wins on points, maybe something like that. Are all Zuffa Boxing contracts 6 years? So I know about 5 or 6 fighters signed to Zuffa Boxing personally, on a personal level, like on some I can call them on my phone type shit. Like I know them like that. And from what I've heard from those fighters that I know, that's all I can speak about is what I know. Yes, pretty much all the fighters I've talked to, their Zuffa contracts are like 6 years long. It's crazy. That's why I'm not really all in on Zuffa Boxing like that, because yes, they're on Paramount Plus. Yes, they're giving guys consistent dates, consistent paydays. But I'm a big believer in fighters having flexibility, because look at, if you guys have ever seen The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. There's a scene in The Last Dance where they talk about Scottie Pippen signing a contract early in his career because he was trying to get his family out of the hood. He was trying to better his family's life, but he made a mistake because he didn't know his worth. He couldn't foresee what he himself was about to become. So he was getting severely underpaid because he signed a long-term extension way too early in his career. And it's the same thing with boxing, that could happen to a lot of these guys. You might sign a contract, and Zuffa Boxing has pay scales. So you might sign a contract to only get paid, $20,000 a fight, but now you win a couple fights, and now commercially, you're a fighter that you should be getting $80,000 or $100,000 or more, but you're getting paid like a $20,000 because that's what you agreed to, because you couldn't foresee the future. You didn't know your worth, right? And that applies to life in general. That's not even just like a boxing thing. That applies to business. That definitely applies to love and relationships. So, sometimes you might meet a girl, you think she's the best thing in the world, and you didn't explore the options. You didn't go see what else was out there for you, right? So you gotta be patient. God blesses the diligent. The Lord blesses the diligent in everything. So that's what it is there. When was the last time you were on Japanese soil, BT? I haven't been on Japanese soil since the middle of June last year, just after Brian Noman Jr. and Jin Sasaki. I've not been to Japan, so By the time I go to Japan this year, it'll be almost a year and a half, since I last been there. And, I'm looking very forward to it. I ain't Japanese, but I show the respect. It's one of those places when you go there, it don't leave you. So I got the Japanese flag there just out of respect to a place that I love a lot and the people I love a lot. So looking forward to going back. This time, God willing, I don't just want to go to Tokyo. I don't want to just go to Yokohama. I don't just want to go to Takamatsu and go see my friends. But I'm really hoping this time when I go, we could pay ourselves a nice visit to Okinawa because I want to go there. And it's warm and it's like the Miami of Japan. And they got some pretty fine women over there. So go there and see what's up. 6 years is bad. That can easily be half a career. That's what I'm saying. And Zuffa Boxing, they're signing mostly fighters that have action styles, and they're mostly doing action fights. And there's not really any fighter development on Zuffa Boxing. Like, they just putting these guys in 50-50, which is not always a good thing. That's why fighter development is a real thing. That's why there's a process to these things. That's why Bob Arum and Top Rank have been so great for so many years, because they understand fighter development, right? So, I get it for the fighters because there's a whole big smorgasbord of fighters that, they're never going to get signed to Top Rank. They're never going to get signed to, Matchroom or PBC or so that's why they're going to Zuffa, because they're giving the best opportunity for those guys to have a real career. But 6 years is a lot, I'll be honest with you, fighters that I know on a personal level that are signed to Zuffa Boxing, sometimes I sit here and I think about that, and I'm fucking concerned. I am very concerned for their future, especially with the whole Muhammad Ali act possibly getting the new one getting passed through Congress. It only has to go through. I think it went through the House. It's about to go through the Senate more than likely, and then after that, I'm pretty sure it's going to Donald Trump. And if it gets to Donald Trump, we know he's going to pass it because him and Dana White is like this. So I'm really scared for the fighters that are signed to Zuffa Boxing after the bill gets in place, because right now Zuffa Boxing's at a stage where they're just trying to acquire as much talent as possible, and then when the bill gets passed, they're gonna bring the full 100% bill. Or the UFC model to Zuffa Boxing. So I'll say that. That's true, BT. I used to work at a tech company at EE and then got laid off. I didn't want to leave because I love that place. Little did I know the next job I landed paid me double what I was. That's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta go where you're celebrated, not tolerated, right? And I feel like if you sign a 6-year contract, not just with Zuffa Boxing, but any promoter, you sign a 6-year contract with any promoter, you're not really believing in yourself long term. I'm like in life and in boxing, I'm a very big believer on betting on yourself. There's been times, I'll tell you guys some personal stuff. There's been times where, in order for me to go to fights, in order for me to pursue this delusional dream of being successful covering boxing, I've had to sell off assets. I've had to sell off some things to stay afloat and to make things happen. And that's a form of betting on yourself. Even if it sounds stupid to other people, you bet on yourself because you feel like whatever you're gonna make, whatever you're gonna do, whatever you're gonna accomplish, it'll supersede those investments anyway. And you could always buy them back double and triple of what you sold them off for. That's really believing in yourself. And I feel like fighters that sign 6-year contracts, they're not believing in themselves, and they're betting against them. They're betting against their own long-term value. But I understand it, because if you talk to a lot of fighters in boxing that are not signed with big promoters, that are trying to get their careers going, the options are very bleak. Like, if none of the top promoters are looking at you and you can't even get consistent fights against decent competition because you don't have a manager bankrolling you and fronting you all this money, then odds are your only bet is going to be that you fight a bunch of bullshit club show fights in your local area against no-hopers, and then maybe you get called one day as a B-side for a big fight against some A-side fighter, and you're really going to go in there not having the best chance to win because everything's against you. You don't even have the experience to fight on that level. It's just a lot. So I trust me when I tell you, I understand more than most why guys are going to Zuffa Boxing. Now, as far as guys at the top, like Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney going to Zuffa Boxing, to me is a head scratcher, honestly, because these guys are in that top 1% of boxing. they make tons of money anyway. So I mean, I guess Zuffa's throwing a bag at them, but you can get a bag. Like those guys can get a bag from a Top Rank or these other people. You know. Are you shocked that Zuffa Boxing haven't made a deal with the young Japanese fighter to help grow in Japan? I think that'll happen at some point. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you guys something interesting. There was one day where one of the fighters from the Angelo Leo camp had to go to the UFC Apex to go spar one of the Zuffa Boxing guys, and Jin Tazaki came with us. So Jin Tazaki was the UFC Apex, and one of the matchmakers passed along some info to Jin. But I mean, I highly doubt Jin ever ever goes to Zuffa Boxing. But they were interested. I saw one of the matchmakers express interest in Jin, so maybe who knows? But I doubt that happens. That's true. Not only is it half a career, but they can get worn down over there, and now their bodies won't be able to keep up now. And that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like a lot. My bad. I feel like a lot of fighters are going to have very short shelf lives on Zuffa Boxing because again, they're not interested in fighter development. They're interested in competitive 50-50 fights. They're kind of trying to be. They're kind of stealing the pro box model, but they're not pro box, right? Yeah. So leave it at that. But shout out to everybody here. We're about an hour and a half in. It is in fact your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. Make sure you guys smash that like button. I'm feeling really good right now. You guys have been giving me some great comments and feedback, and I feel like I owe the loyal audience across the world here on True School Sports a long, drawn out live. So this is going to be probably a long. We might be on this motherfucker for another hour and a half, just talking boxing, just having fun, staying in the pocket with it. So leave your comments down below and hit the like button, and I will answer any and all questions about boxing. BT, I need to ask you one question before I go. What are your thoughts on Maxie Hughes versus Louis Sylvester? I have no thoughts on that fight because I don't know. I don't even know that those guys are fighting. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even know who Louis Sylvester is, so I'm not gonna lie to you. But that's my honest answer. Dog says believing in ourselves is some of the best advice we can follow because if we don't, if we don't, it can ruin how we think of ourselves. It will, and I'm gonna tell you all this. Speaking as somebody who has been I've had to be very delusional in my own life to even get to this point that I'm in in the boxing journey. You have to believe in yourself to the point of utter delusion because this world at every twist and turn is going to tell you that you can't do certain things. You can't do this. Why can't you do that? They're going to say, well, I can't do it. You can't do it, and they're going to try to drag you down to their level. So you got to have unwavering belief even when shit don't look like it's going to go your way. Even when there's no reason to believe, you got to find a reason to believe. You got to create one, It's to that point. Are you aware of Wilkins Mateo? Vaguely. I think I may have seen him fight one time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what weight class he fights in, but has he fought for like a European title? If it's not him, then I guess I don't know. Jin Sasaki versus Conor Ben. Oh my God, I would go nuts. Now, see if Zuffa Boxing came to Japan and they made Jin Sasaki versus Conor Ben, then I could get behind Zuffa a little bit, but that's not happening. Zuffa has to compete with Cork and Hall in that aspect. I mean, listen, when it comes to Cork and Hall and you're talking to Japanese fighters, you're not going to be competing. That's every Japanese fighter dreams of turning pro and fighting at Cork and Hall. I'm not even Japanese, and I'm not even a professional boxer, and I dream of fighting at Cork and Hall. Like I'm in Hajime no Ippo, so it's a lot. My thoughts on Thomas Taylor? I think Thomas Taylor consistently injects himself into a fight. Like even when he's not jumping in to stop these fights, he's giving warnings where warnings don't need to be given. Like I can't tell you a time where I watched Thomas Taylor referee a fight and he didn't insert himself and make himself some sort of story of the fight. And that's not good. That's not good refereeing, in my opinion. A good referee is a guy that polices the action when he needs to, but is not even present. Like you don't even know he's there. And you let the fighters fight. There's too many examples of Thomas Taylor making himself the story of the fight. So I would agree with you. I believe he jumps the gun. I believe he injects himself into the fight more than he should. and that's just what it is. But to Kato's point, he will penalize excessive clinching. So that not everybody's all bad and not everybody's all good. There's positives and negatives to every referee, just like there's positives and negatives to people in life. And to answer Cyrus's question, because Cyrus had said, "Oh, okay, BT. So Okinawa is where they're at, huh?" Yeah, it is. I mean, based upon Instagram research that I've done, amongst women that I've talked to in the Tokyo area, Okinawa is the place to be in Japan if you're trying to see some real Asian baddies, so to speak. Because I'll tell you guys a story. When I went in 2024 to Japan, I was talking to this Japanese Colombian girl. Ain't that some shit? A Japanese Colombian girl. Girl speaks Spanish and Japanese and English. And she was always in Okinawa. She was always going to Okinawa. And then I would start going on Instagram and I would go look at pictures of people in Okinawa and I just see all these beautiful Japanese girls. So I say, you know what? It makes sense. It's a tropical area. There's a lot of nice things to do there. It's really fun from what I've heard. So I've seen a lot of the country. That's the next part of Japan I would like to go see at some point. So God willing, things fall into place. God provides and we could be there later on in the year. He says, BT is spitting knowledge. Listen, man. Listen, Carol. When you're not hating on me and you're not trying to make these threats, and trying to fight me, and you listen to the kid BT, I could put you on game. I could put you on game to a lot of things. I'm 31 years old, but your boy BT, and I consider that young, because that is young. I'm seasoned in certain areas of life, so you could learn a thing or two from the kid BT. I'm gonna take your word for it. Japanese, it's ridiculous. It's insane, and that's not it. I mean, there's a lot of Brazilians. Like Yokohama has a high population of Brazilian Japanese people, and there's a lot of Brazilian Japanese people in the country. There's a lot of Australian Japanese people because a lot of people from Australia and Japan. They did the thing, right? But anyway, we're getting off topic. Shout out to everybody here. Listen, we're all friends here. If y'all got any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about boxing, and if you even got any boxing questions, you could feel free to ask those. It is True School After Dark, so naturally speaking, you're gonna get some funny comments when you go live at this late at night or in the wee hours of the morning. If you're on the East Coast right now, it's 1 something. If you're on the East Coast, it's 1:14 a.m. If you're on the West Coast, it's now nighttime. It's now prime time. It's 10:14 p.m. on Pacific time. So, yeah. K Dora Master says, "Hi, I'm Japanese and I like your videos." Well, shout out to you, man. Shout out to all the fine folks in Japan. Let me know where you're from in Japan, because I like always knowing where the Japanese viewership comes from when Japanese people do pass along. I'm always curious about that. Are they in Tokyo? Are they in Yokohama? Are they in Kyoto? Are they in Nagoya? Are they in Takamatsu? Are they in Mito? Are they in Okinawa? Where are you from, champ? What do I think about the Pro Box platform? That's coming from the real Malachi Ross. Shout out to Malachi Ross. I like Pro Box. I mean, I don't like Pro Box. I like Pro Box still, just not as much as I used to, because I thought like when Pro Box first came out, they had it right the first time. Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, a midweek fight series, good competitive fights, well matched. That's what I liked. That's what I felt like they were in their own lane. They weren't in competition with nobody. I felt like it was perfect. It gave boxing fans something good to watch in the middle of the week. Now they're doing a lot of their shows on Saturdays. They're trying to compete with the other promoters, and it's just like, unless Pro Box gets some big time investors to bankroll them some money to get better fighters and actually accommodate fighters on the world championship level, they're not going to be able to compete with the top ranks in the match rooms and the these companies that are getting bankrolled by the Saudis and Russian oligarchs. They're just not. So does Pro Box still put on good shows? Yes, but them moving the fights from I think Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights to Saturday, big mistake in my opinion. Just it's still there's still good fights, but I just don't watch as much pro boxing as I used to because it's hard. I mean, if you give me the option to watch the biggest fights or watch some developmental fights on a Saturday, I'm gonna watch the bigger fights, and then I'll get to pro box if I get to pro box. You know. Kenshiro Taraji's from Kyoto, and so are you. So shout out to Kyoto. I've only been to Kyoto once. The only time I ever went to Kyoto, in my entire life was when the first time I went to visit Kyoto was to go interview Kenshiro. The first only time, and Kenshiro gave me that right there, that bad boy right there, that banner, the custom Kenshiro world champion banner from when he won his first world title. He gave that to me, and there's only like, 2 or 3 of those in existence, and he gave it to me. So that's one of my most prized possessions in boxing. That banner is very, very important to me. So hopefully I can go to Kyoto again, man. I didn't get a chance to really explore it when I was out there. I kind of just went to Kenshiro's gym, and I saw one of the temples out there, and I just dipped. But shout out to you out there in Kyoto. He says, true, I miss Pro Box on Thursday. That's what I'm saying. I feel like they nailed it. They had it right out the gate. Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, the last chance tournament that they started off with, I thought that was a banger. They should have continued doing that. Now they're just trying to be like another promoter, and I don't like that. I feel like they could have I feel like they should have just tried to do both. Like, and of course, I'm not privy to their finances or their economics, so I'm sure there's monetary reasons to why they're doing it. Gary Jonas is a smart guy, but if there was a way they could have just continued doing fights on Tuesdays and Thursdays and do a Saturday show, that would have been the move for me. That's just my opinion. Bonjour says, I'm experiencing my first totally unexpected, unrequited crush. I got to the point, random thoughts about this girl. I never spoken a word, and I'm sort of annoyed. Any advice, BT, with how to live with this? Get out of your head and go talk to her. She's a human being. She might be fine to you. She might be an attractive woman, but there's many attractive women. There's only one you, champ, and don't forget that. Don't put them on a pedestal. They're human beings, right? And talk to them as such. But I know it's hard. I know it's easier said than done. Because every now and then, there might be a girl, there might be a girl where I'm like, damn, I get it. Trust me, I get it. I understand, but they're human beings, champ. Don't put them on a pedestal. I hope you can cover Anthony Garnica versus Eros Correa on this Friday. Eros Correa used to coach at my gym before he moved to Vegas. I'm glad you brought that up to me because I've been trying to get to a video about that fight. I have notes. Like in my notes, I have tons of video ideas, and sometimes it takes me a while to get to them. And that's one of the main fights I wanted to talk about because I'm a big fan of Anthony Garnica. I had a chance to get to know Anthony Garnica when I was out in the Bay Area back in September with Yugo Osaki. Yugo was over there sparring him a lot when I was over there, and I grew to really become very fond of Anthony Garnica. And he hasn't fought in the time that I've known him, right? And I knew of him. Like before I met him, I knew of him because he's very close to Andy Ruiz. He even has an Andy Ruiz Jr. tattoo on his arm. So they're very close. I remember hearing his name a lot back in 2020. But I got to know him, so I've been very intrigued to see him fight. I think there's a lot of value in him as a fighter. I think he's probably one of the American bantamweights that could really make some noise in the division, and be in exciting fights. And God willing, bring some big time boxing back to the Bay Area because I feel like the Bay Area is such an underutilized market in boxing. They'll support boxing if you bring the fights. If you build it, they'll come. It's a great sports town. The Niners get great support. The San Jose Sharks get great support. The Giants get great support. The Warriors get great support. I mean, it's just a great place in general. And it's funny because I'm not from the Bay Area. Like, I've only been to the Bay Area one time my whole life, but I got a lot of love for the Bay Area. And I'll be back there in July for Osquaga versus Dominguez. So, yeah. I'm definitely going to make a video about that fight for sure. No doubt about it. I don't know what happened to Vladimir Hernandez. Vladimir Hernandez is not a guy that fighters are going to rush to fight because Vladimir Hernandez is a tough guy to deal with. He's upset a lot of guys. A lot of people thought that he beat Troy Isley. I thought he beat Troy Isley. So give me 1 second, guys. I gotta go get my charger. But make sure you smash the like button. Definitely hit the subscribe button and definitely super chat because we got probably like 10 minutes for the 2 hour mark. I'm gonna give you guys 3 hours today. I'm gonna give you guys a solid 3 hours because y'all deserve it. Y'all stay patient with me while I was in camp. You guys continue to support. You guys always show me love. You guys always make these lives a lot of fun, and you guys make things very special for me as well as my dad. So I'm gonna give you guys 3 hours today, and then after that we'll end it. But hold on, let me put this charger in because my computer's gonna die, and I need my computer right now. Amari Jones is fighting in the Bay Area. He's fighting in San Jose. He's fighting at the SAP Center where the Sharks play. If I got some things going on, I think I'll probably be traveling again. I'll probably be on the road again. So I probably won't be able to get out to that fight. I know he's fighting Vincenzo Gutierrez, who's a former champion, but Amari Jones beat the shit out of Vincenzo Gutierrez. He's not that good, but it looks good on the resume. He's fighting a former world champion. He's getting his first headlining show with Golden Boy in the Bay. So if he looks good and performs well, Amari Jones is a guy that could be bringing big time boxing back to the Bay Area. And I think he's gonna win a middleweight world title because middleweight is trash right now. So he's probably one of the best fighters in the division. And truth be told, I like Amari. He's a good fighter, but he hasn't even really proven anything yet. So that goes to show you how bad the middleweight division is. But he's one of the best fighters in the division right now as far as the contenders are concerned. And if he doesn't win a world title in this weak ass middleweight division, then I'm gonna have a lot to say because he should. He's one of the best fighters in it. But yeah, if he wins and looks good, I'd be very happy because then that means Golden Boy will come back to the Bay Area, and I'll have more excuses to go to the Bay Area. So I'm rooting for him. I want him to win, but just telling you guys the reality of the middleweight division right now. BT, what are your thoughts on Atif Overton? Is this man legit? And what about Atif versus Nigel Lopez? Is that a good fight? Well, funny enough, guys, and I feel like Nigel Lopez was ringside at the fight because Nigel Lopez had two of his brothers fighting on the undercard of that card, so he was there, and I'm sure he's seen Atif Overton fight many times. I love that fight. I think that's one of the best fights in American boxing that could be made. I don't think it's going to happen until both guys, or at least one guy, has a belt. And right now, neither guy is champion. So I still think we're probably 12 to 24 months away from a fight like Atif Overton or Nigel Lopez happening. And truth be told, I don't have any intel on this, but I think the promoters would, if ProBox or Dimitri Salita gets an offer for one of those guys to fight Ben Whitaker, who's from the UK, who's already got a big profile, I feel like that it's more possible we see Atif Overton versus Ben Whitaker or Nigel Lopez versus Ben Whitaker before we see Atif Overton versus Nigel Lopez. But I think it's a dynamite fight. I'm very high on both guys. I saw Nigel Lopez spar as a kid, pretty much as a young teenager when in 2019, I saw him spar Trevor Bryan at Stacey McKinley's gym. I saw him spar a number of fighters at Stacey McKinley's gym in 2019, and I've been very bullish on Nigel Lopez ever since that. I've always said Nigel Lopez is going to be a world champion. But I've also said the same exact thing about Atif Overton ever since I saw him back in 2022 on the Al Haymon on the PBC prelims. And he's got a great coach. Atif has one of the best boxing minds in the sport behind him in Tommy Yankello. So I'm very high on both guys, and I think that'll be a fight that people talk about a lot right now. But I think until then, both guys just got to keep doing their job, building their profile up, and it'll happen at the right time when and if the good man upstairs ordains it. Joseph says, "Do you love strong black women? Also, who is the black Cuban that is 6'1" and he's 160 pounds who trains him? Does he train in Florida or New York?" So to answer your first question, do I like strong black women? I like any woman of any nationality that's beautiful, that looks good. I don't discriminate. My first girlfriend was actually black, but nonetheless, as far as the fighter you're talking about, Yohan Elise Hernandez. That's why I believe you're talking about. Big, strong guy, huge for the weight class. I'm not exactly sure who his trainer is. His trainer might be Hector Bermudez, but don't quote me on that. I'm only saying it's Hector Bermudez because he showed up to one of his fights, and I saw Hector Bermudez. So I'm not sure that's his coach, but I know that you're talking about Yohan Elise Hernandez. Yohan Elise Hernandez. Is Danny Bodish that white kid that he's always posting on his Instagram? Atif is extremely dirty, and many don't talk about it. He punches on the back of the head constantly and deliberately after breaking clinches. A good boxer, but overly aggressive. Well, that's why I like him. I like overly aggressive fighters. I like guys that come to knock someone out. It's good, but I can see why you say that. I'm gonna disagree with you. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit because I was sitting there ringside. I had a pretty good view of what he was doing to Carlos Gongora. He was punching him here on the side of the head, on the top of the head, and that's not on the back. Like that be happening a lot. Like I remember when I was in camp with Angelo Lee, I was sparring this one fighter who I won't name, but I hit him on the top of the head, like right here, a couple times on the side, and he kept saying I was hitting him on the back of the head, and I said no. I'm not hitting you on the back of the head. It's just these bricks that's touching you. That's why it feels like it's in the back of your head. But nonetheless, yeah, I don't think he does that, in my opinion. But I'll go back and watch some film. We'll see. If someone wanted to spy on someone's camp, what's some valuable information to get that would be helpful for the other team? Like how hard and fast the person hit the heavy bag. You know, Definitely like their training habits. Things, certain combinations they're working on in the gym, something like that. Things like that. Because if you spy on someone in a camp, you're gonna hear what the trainers are telling them, so you can get a gauge on what they're gonna do based on what the trainer's telling them in the actual fight. Definitely not over aggressive. He likes to box and manage distance. He does, Cyrus. But when he sees an opening, I'll tell you this, because I remember like 2 rounds before the stoppage, because Tommy and Keller was literally like sitting to my left where I was ringside. When this dude sees an opening, when Atif sees an opening, Tommy and Keller told him in like the 4th round against Gongora, he said, "Hey Atif, you know, push him back and decelerate your punches. Take some speed out the punches." And he started doing that. And when he saw the opening, when he sees the opening, he really commits to his offense. He really commits to his shots. And that's what he did in the fight. So yeah, I do think Atif does box. I think he does a great job of keeping things long. I definitely think he can pivot really well. But when he sees an opening, he commits and he does get aggressive. I do agree with that aspect. What the guy said. There is this black girl I sometimes see at Walmart. She looks like she's 7 feet tall. Is super crazy in a cool way. Well, shit, man. If you think it's cool, go shoot your shot. Go talk to her. Who knows? You might get the experience chopping down the tree. Robert Garcia said that if Bam gets past the next opponent, he might want to unify with Takuma for one more fight this year before challenging Inoue. How do you see that going if it happens? I think it's a good fight. I would favor Bam Rodriguez just because I think he could fight in the pocket a bit better, and he fights downhill better than Takuma. But what we've seen with Takuma is that if you don't, if you allow Takuma to box at range and stay classy on the outside, it's gonna be hard not to work for you. Like Takuma can box his ass off. If you want to beat Takuma, you got to replicate at least in pockets of the fight what Seiya Satsumi was able to do, what Nordine Ubala was able to do. You got to get in his chest and push him all the way back. You understand? So I would favor Bam. Do you think it's hard to spy on someone's camp? I want to plant 5 different cameras at 5 different angles in someone's camp. I got 3 cameras that are 4K with a good mic. I am a spy. Well, good for you, champ. I know one cam you ain't in. And Inoue's team's biggest fumble was passing up Nick Ball. That was a true lick. I agree. That was the layup fight that was gonna make Inoue a 5 division champion. And they fucked around with it, and they said, "Oh, I want to build my body more before going to featherweight." And really, you didn't need to need to do all that, because Nick Ball was fighting just as many 122 pounders as Inoue was. You could have went ahead and just fought Nick Ball. But now the landscape, I feel, is a lot more tougher, no matter who you pick. I think Brandon Figueroa is a layup. I think he should be Brandon Figueroa. But Brandon Figueroa is still very tall. He's still very physical, and he still throws a lot of punches. And we know boxing history has shown us, and even parts of Naoya Inoue's career have shown us, that the Mexican volume punching style that runs the numbers up can really be a kryptonite for the mid-range, disciplined, explosive, regimented Japanese style. And so now that guy, I think Brandon Figueroa is the weakest champion of the division, in my opinion. That guy who, is the weakest, really isn't that weak of a fight, stylistically speaking, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. Like, you would have had Japanese television involved, you would have had British television involved, and you would have had American television involved. It would have been three of the biggest boxing markets in the world would have been involved TV wise for that fight, and it would have been a winnable fight, and you could have been a 5 division champion. And guess what? If you would have beat Nick Ball, and then you would have vacated the title, and then came back down to 122 pounds, guess what would happen? Nobody would give you any criticism, because you just became a 5. Even me, like, yeah, I'd be upset. Yeah, I'd probably talk some shit here and there about him not fighting Angelo Leo, and you don't want to fight, and Mr. Honda knows what's up. Like, you would get some of that out of me, but truthfully speaking, like, I would understand. I would understand it from a management standpoint. Brandon is iffy because we all keep saying if Brandon went to how he would used to be, he would be an issue. But the truth is, he hasn't been that guy in so long. Is it even there? I don't. It's hard to say. He showed flashes of it in the latter stages of the Nick Ball fight, which is why he's in this position in the first place. But Brandon, I feel like Brandon, in my opinion, I feel like Brandon had his moment. He had his moment. His moments were at 122. Louis Neri, Stephen Fulton, and I guess you could say Nick Ball. His style and his strengths are very much dependent. Were very much dependent on his conditioning and his size. And when either one of those two things become less of a factor, so does he. And so that's why I feel like he's not going to really have that belt for very long if they match him with either Inoue or Espinoza or Angelo Leo or even even a guy like Bruce Carrington. Because with Bruce Carrington, Bruce is a guy with long arms, can counterpunch. So we'll see how it goes for Brandon. Yeah, for sure. Weight gain, and the weight gain making a guy slower it's not just the case for Brandon. I also think it's the case for Inoue. Inoue is still faster than most guys, but he's slower. His speed is noticeably slower because he's bulking up. Because they say they're trying to go to featherweight, even though I still don't believe it. But he looks visibly slower, and also to age in tough fights, and I'm sure very tough camps. I just without even being in the camp with Inoue, I already know what type of fighter he is. I understand Inoue, but I understand Inoue better than most people because spending time around a guy like Angelo will help you understand a guy like Inoue, guys on that top world class level. What it really takes to be on that top world class level, and he's definitely one of those guys that you gotta tell to take some rest. You gotta tell Inoue, hey, rest, so you have enough time to recuperate for the next day. Because if not, if you left him up to his own vices, he'd probably be in there training every day, 4 sessions a day. He's always one of them guys. It's like Angelo's the same way. Can you do a breakdown video on how to break the Black American Devin Haney Philly shell clinch? It's annoying that someone cuts off the ring and other guys break USA boxing rules and hug. Well, I think a big part of that, number one, is you got to control the distance. So if you allow a guy to close the gap on you and hold, it means that you're not doing your work early. You're not controlling them with the lead hand. You understand? You're not breaking their rhythm and feigning them so that they are frozen for a minute so you can get to whatever you want to do next. You're letting them close the gap, smother you, and extend their arms and clinch. So you're fucking up just by not controlling the range. That's number one. The second part of it is if they do get on the inside somehow and clinch you, physical strength. Do you are you doing the things in camp that are necessary to not just build your punching power and your speed and your fundamentals, but your physical strength to get these guys off of you? See, a lot of fighters, they're not. They may punch hard, but they're not physically strong. And some guys is physically strong, but they don't punch hard. Like for example, Timothy Bradley was physically strong, but he didn't really punch that hard. Sergey Kovalev punched hard, but he wasn't physically strong, which is why Andre Ward had so much success against him. So I think as a fighter, it's important to have a little bit of both. If you can have a little bit of both and develop a little bit of both, that'll help you when you fight guys like with the Devin Haney style. I need Espinosa's tall ass to stop waiting for Inoue and move up and fight Navarrete. Well, see, for me, I feel like that's gonna happen anyway. I feel like Zanford Promotions is delaying the inevitable because I know they don't want to fight Angelo Leo. I know they don't want to fight Angelo Leo. No matter how much they go to the media and tell certain reporters certain things to try to build his name up off Angelo and keep his name in the relevant while he's not got a fight scheduled, I know that that's what they want to do. They want to make the all Mexican super fight because Vaquero is on the way out. Espinosa is on the way in. If Vaquero wins, Vaquero's bigger star. If Espinosa wins, boom, you got your new star Mexican boxing. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about Rafa having to cut all this weight to go down 126, where he may have some problems making the weight. So just if they're gonna do it, just go do the inevitable. If that's what you're already thinking about, because if it's already on your mind, it means you already want to do it. You don't want to unify. You don't want to fight Bruce Carrington. You don't want to fight Angelo. You don't want to fight Brandon Figueroa. Even though Ryan was on PEDs, he did a lot of nuanced things better than Norman did. He did. I think he controls his range better than Norman. I think he understands his distance better than Norman. And his speed with the left hook is Norman's got more heavy-handed power. As to where Ryan, he's more like Brian Norman is twitchy to a degree, but I would actually say Devin might be a bit more twitchy than Brian Norman Jr. when it comes to the left hook. So that speed and the left hook getting him from point A to point B, how fast he gets from point A to point B, that gave Devin a lot of problems. Devin is a guy that if you watch him fight, sometimes he'll fight with his lead hand a bit low, and sometimes his bottom right hand will drop, which is why Ryan was able to land that shot so much. Yo, BT, is the Yuga kid the same guy you were in camp with? Well, it depends on which Yuga are you talking about? Because if you're talking about Yuga Fujiki, the super prospect that just signed with Ohashi Gym, that's not who I was in camp with. The kid I was in camp with is Yuga Osaki, the light flyweight that just they just announced him signing with All Star Boxing, even though he signed his contract way before they announced it. That's who I was in camp with. Really good fighter. In my opinion, has the talent, the skills, the ability to be the best light flyweight in the world. Just needs to tighten his defense up a bit more because he does get hit with some stupid shots sometimes. But other than that, speed is there, the power is there, the jab is there, everything is there. He just needs to really tighten up on his defense. Otherwise, a guy like Simsuri might flatline him. And another thing that boxing style is, you can't get caught up in chasing. If you get caught up in chasing a couple shots, you need to let them come to you and box where most boxers are uncomfortable. I agree. I feel like you got to mix the ranges up on them. Close the gap here and there, and then make an adjustment. Mid-fight, make an adjustment. Boom, box them. Make them come to you. Because I don't want to give y'all too much because But anyway, what I've noticed about a lot of fighters in boxing today is that you got a lot of guys, particularly like counter punchers, guys that are counter punchers. A lot of these counter punchers don't feel comfortable when you box them and they have to get on the front foot. They need you to lead the exchange. They need you to commit first, and then they can get their offense off. So I think it's just a matter of mixing the ranges up. Shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash the like button. We're 2 hours in, guys. So I'm gonna give y'all one last hour, and I'm gonna get up off here because I gotta get some rest, and I got a very busy day ahead of me tomorrow. But I got 50 more minutes left, so get your comments in, hit the like button, super chat, all that. Joel says Nick Ball versus Angelo Leo in the UK BT. Oh, it was discussed. It was discussed at one point, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. They wanted to drag their ass and not fight none of the champions. So they're out of luck now. I mean, they're out of luck. Now maybe if Nick Ball gets blessed, if Nick Ball gets blessed by the good Lord as a voluntary defense at some point, maybe he can go dust off his passport and come to New Mexico and have 6,000 to 10,000 angry New Mexicans with green chili in their system saying, "Come over here, fucker." I want some of these guys to have to come to fight in New Mexico at some point, because I want people to experience how disrespectful and crazy the New Mexican boxing fans can get. Because Angelo will get a lot of support in New Mexico. Hyro says it didn't help Philip Hergovich because he's not good. If he goes 12 rounds with Dave Allen, he needs to retire. I'll disagree with the first part, but I'll agree with the second part. If Philip Hergovich doesn't beat the brakes off Dave Allen, I'm gonna come out here and say exposed again. But he is good. You're tripping. But now they need Leo. They do. And if they need Leo now, they're gonna have to come dust off their passport. Because when they had the belt, when they were in the driver's seat, and Team Leo was willing to go to the UK, they didn't want to fight. And that's not me talking shit. I know that because I talked to one of the guys from Queensberry Promotions at the WBA convention, and they didn't want to fight. How is Shushu and Fig moving now that they've been champion? Because I know you wanted to see how they're moving. Well, I mean, they haven't really been here long enough to see anything. I mean, Shushu's getting a voluntary against Oscar, against the guy Palacios that beat Sagawa, which is hilarious to me because Rafael Espinoza has had 3 voluntaries, which is Sergio Trino Sanchez, Arnold K. Guy, and Edward Vasquez. Brandon Figueroa hasn't had a voluntary yet. Shushu's already getting a voluntary. Angelo Leo has never had a voluntary. Ain't that some shit? But we'll see. We'll see. I still think it's too early to say anything. Did you see the rumors of Seiya Sasumi? I will die if Inoue fights anyone outside of Bam at 122. LMAO could be Japanese rumors though. I saw something about Seiya Sutsumi. What was it? I think it was Sutsumi vacating his title, and then Takuma Inoue was gonna fight Daigo Higa, who was gonna come out of retirement. I could be wrong, but I think that was the rumor. But if it's not that, then put me on game. What is it? Bryce Mills is his name. Bryce Mills? Oh, Bryce Mills. Yeah, Bryce Mills. He's fighting Emiliano Vargas. Bryce Mills, good. He's a decent fighter. He's got a little bit of pop. He's a good ticket seller out there upstate New York. So part of the reason why they put him on the Boots card is because I'm sure he's gonna get a lot of support from people in upstate New York coming to New York City to watch him fight. So he's there to sell tickets. But a decent fighter. He's not. I'm not gonna disrespect him and just call him a ticket seller. But he's a guy that Emiliano Vargas should beat. And I'll tell you guys this: if Vargas can't beat Bryce Mills, then he's not that good to begin with. So, Bryce Mills is solid. Bryce Mills. He had a controversial fight with one of the South Florida guys, Aaron Aponte. His last fight, he fought a kid named Tobias Green, who I'm very familiar with because Tobias Green ducked my boy Eric Lances Jr. a couple years ago. And then he did all that, ducking Eric Lances Jr. just to get destroyed by Bryce Mills in like 4 rounds. You could have got this one from Eric Lances Jr. a couple years ago, but that's neither here nor there. I'm very high on Yuta Sakai. Who do you think his big fight will be in the future? That's a good question. What is he at 118? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe someone like maybe somebody like an Aoi Yokoyama if he moves up. Like I'm thinking about Japanese fighters because the main classes are full of guys like that. He said no. Naoya Inoue. Oh my God! Now look, I love Seiya Tsutsumi. That's one of my favorite fighters from Japan. It's one of my favorite fighters in boxing. If Naoya Inoue fights Seiya Tsutsumi, I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna crash out like no other. That's ridiculous. I'm sure it'll be exciting. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. But come on, man. How you gonna sit here and talk shit about certain guys and him? You can't defend that. I'm sorry. If you he just fought an old Donaire, and I love saying this to me, but he was very lucky to get out of there with a decision, right? So you're gonna fight a guy who probably could have had a loss to this older compromised Donaire. So you're gonna fight a guy that some people would view as a Donaire leftover, while you got legacy fights waiting for you at 126. I mean, I'll tell you this: I hated the Junta Nakatani fight. The Junta Nakatani Naoya Inoue fight is one of my biggest disappointments in the history of boxing, and I've been getting very annoyed with people trying to tell me that it was some great high level fight. It was a cool fight. It had some decent ebbs and flows towards the end, but it did not live up to. It did not even come close to being the fight that it was supposed to be. It didn't, straight up. So I would be happier seeing the Inoue Nakatani rematch than Inoue versus Seiya Tsutsumi, because Inoue Seiya Tsutsumi is pointless. Seiya Tsutsumi, Bam got to fight Seiya Tsutsumi. Honestly, if Bam beats Antonio Vargas, which I think he's going to, he needs to fight Seiya Tsutsumi to become the real WBA champion. That's what I'm saying. Like, Inoue was supposed to be the Japanese Hagler versus Hearns. Everyone's over here telling me how, BT, no, you don't understand high level boxing. I'm like, bro, get the fuck up out of here. I've been part of multiple world title training camps. I know styles. Like, I don't have a life. Boxing is my life. Like, I literally told Demetrius Salito when I seen him, I said, look, man, I don't got a life. Boxing is my life. So, they did some high level things, cool, but they fought at the Tokyo Dome, the granddaddy of them all. You not fighting in the Tokyo Dome to do high level boxing. The shit was too respectful. It was too respectful, and I'm not really mad at Naoya in a way, because I feel like in a way just kind of took what the defense was giving him. In a way, didn't have a lot to work with, so he had to take what Junto was giving him. I'm mad at Junto. Like, bro, this is your grand opportunity. This is your grand opportunity to fight the face of Japanese boxing and supplant him as the new face of Japanese boxing, and become a global superstar in the sport of boxing. And you shit the bed for like 7.5 rounds, which you had your hands in your pocket, digging for lint and pennies and yen. You wasn't trying to win, and that's my gripe with the fight. I got no problem with fighters losing. It's okay if you lose in life. We're all gonna lose at some point in anything, but to not even try for 7 rounds, I'll be damned. Yo, BT, are we gonna get an aftermath of Naoya in a way? No. You could consider this live the aftermath of Naoya in a way, because I probably spent an hour of this, almost hour and 18 minutes talking about him. Aftermath lives. If I don't do them on the Sunday or the Monday after the fight, you're not getting Aftermath live. They have a certain shelf life, so there's no Aftermath for Vorley versus Dubois. There's no Aftermath for Inoue Nakatani. There wasn't. There hasn't even been an Aftermath for Angelo Leo versus Ryan Salim. So, but you could consider this live that as well, because I talked about him a lot as well this live. That's what I'm saying. That was the most non-violent orbital bone fracture I've ever seen in the ring. It wasn't. It wasn't a great fight, and it's annoying. It's annoying that people are trying to tell me that it was a great fight because I'll tell you this. Let's be real. If you replace the names Inoue and Nakatani and you put the names Haney and Hitchens and they have that same fight, people are not going to be calling it this high level great fight. They're going to say, yo, this shit was trash. And that's just the truth, you know? And it's crazy. It's crazy that I've had to be the one to say this because I'm the one with the Japanese flag on my wall. I'm the one that's the number one source of Japanese boxing in America, right? And so people always say that I have this insane bias in favor of the Japanese fighters, but no, I I call like I see it. Regardless, they could be from Japan, Pluto, South Florida, Timbuktu. I don't give a damn. I call it how I see it. Japanese fans are different. They very much are. When is David going to stop ducking jab attack because people are being with Zufa isn't a problem? Haro, are you being serious? There's no way you're being serious because you love Benavidez. There's no way that you're being serious. That can't even be Haro typing that. After round 4, Junto had to press and go for broke, waiting on the back foot with the wide base and low punch stance for a big counter punch. It's dumb. It is dumb. But you know what? I'm not going to reveal to you guys. There's 3 things you need to beat now in a way. There's 3 things that it takes to beat him. Junto only has 2 of them. The third one that he's missing, the third thing that you need to beat now in a way, and it's probably the most important thing, he's missing it. And that's why he had to fight that way. And if Inoue ever comes a featherweight, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Do you believe that Diego Pacheco's new trainer, the slick black fighter Buddy McGirt, will help him get a belt and become a better fighter? I feel like I'm the only person in the world that still has any belief in Pacheco because he's been putting on some really mid-ass performances. But I've always said from day one that I think Diego Pacheco is. I think of all the Matchroom Boxing USA fighters, I thought Diego Pacheco had the highest ceiling. I think he's a very good boxer. I won't call him an outright boxer puncher. He has some pop, but I don't think he's a boxer puncher. I think he's more of a boxer, and I think he's a very good boxer. And I think he actually does know how to fight off of his range pretty well. But I think, like recently, going from the Benavidez camp and then going back to one of his old coaches from when he was a kid, he got caught in between 2 styles when he fought. Who was that guy he just fought? Who was that Kevin Sajo? When he fought Kevin Lele Sajo, he got caught in between 2 styles. So I think he's still trying to find his identity in the ring. And if Buddy McGirt doesn't do anything else for Pacheco, he's gonna allow Pacheco to have a more clear-cut direction when he goes in the ring, for sure. So we'll see how it goes. My opinion on Dan Morrell, I thought Morrell shit the bed against Zach Chelly, and I don't think Morrell has been the same fighter ever since his first fight at light heavyweight when he fought Hot Rod. So it was bound to happen. That's why, even though I don't like Callum Smith, when they had that fight signed initially, my pick was Callum Smith because Morrell, his speed carried up. He still has a lot of speed for a guy at that size, but his power never carried up. Guys is taking his punches, and he hasn't really shown me that he can still dominate and dominate these guys if they stand up to his power. And so I was there. Ever since the first Hot Rod fight, I've been very questionable about Morrell as a light heavyweight. See, my man Cyrus, he's asking the correct, right, pertinent questions. He's saying, when is the next time that Riku Masuda's fighting? So far, I don't know, but if I could get one fight in the bantamweight division, you say, BT, you only get to pick one fight you want to see in the bantamweight division. I need Riku Masuda versus Kenneth Lovere. That's the fight we need. That fight right there is one of the most violent fights in boxing. That's the fight we need in the bantamweight division. So hopefully it could be that at some point. Hold on, I missed. Is Angelo your BFF? Well, yeah, sure, why not? Your opinion on Dan Morrell, overrated, or did Benavidez soften him up? No, I think at this point it's fair to say that he's overrated. It's not like this was his first bad performance at light heavyweight. He had a bad performance against Hot Rod. He barely got out of that fight. He really got fortunate to not have an L hung on him by Katayev. He lost to Benavidez, and then he got stopped by Zach Chelly. And Zach Chelly's a British fighter. This is a guy that's lost to guys on the domestic British level. Like, he's never beaten anybody worth a damn on the world level. One of his best wins is Jack Cullen, and Jack Cullen got stopped in like 5 rounds against Diego Pacheco, who people say is not that good. So, I like Morrell. I think he's probably been one of the most exciting Cuban fighters of the last 5 years, 10 years, style wise. But he's overrated. That's just the truth, unfortunately. Hyro says I'm being sarcastic because people are saying that Jai can fight on the ring show when Turkey hasn't had any unification in years. People don't know. Like, people, when people speak on Jai Opataya, they don't know what they're talking about. Jai Opataya has fought on Turkey shows, but do you guys not realize that Jai Opataya was supposed to be on the undercard of Eubank versus Ben? I think it was Eubank versus Ben. Eubank versus Ben, and they were trying to make him fight Chris Smith in Turkey Al Sheikh, in all his glory and all his bankroll. They only gave Opataya and Chris Smith $1 million for a unification fight. That's ridiculous. When you're talking about a unification fight in a stadium, both guys got to make more than $500K. I'm sorry. Like, it's a unification fight. Bill Smith's taking on a dangerous task. It's a dangerous task in terms of, Bill Smith fighting Jai. It's a dangerous task in terms of Jai fighting Smith. It's a hard fight. So guys got to be compensated for hard fights. That's just the nature of the business. And $1 million isn't enough. So my thing is, if they couldn't get Jai Opataya the budget to fight on a stadium show, how are they going to get him the budget to fight Benavidez? Now with the red tape of Zuffa Boxing, who's going to implement a pay scale, they're going to Congress, they're going to bring the UFC model fully to boxing once the bill is passed. I mean, think, man. You got to think. Who should Callum Peters fight next after he schooled Joe Sean James? And I didn't get a chance to watch that fight. I'm very upset about that fight because I like Joe Sean James. I had a chance to corner a couple of sparring sessions when I was out there in the Bay. So I like Joe Sean. I've loved watching him fight on Pro Box. But, Joe Sean is a good fighter, but he's limited, so it's not the most surprising thing in the world. What are they at, 68? Because I think Joe Sean James a 68 pounder? I mean, anybody in the top 15, top 30, something like that. Someone said, Angelo and BT are besties, so he has a right to be biased. Nah, I'll tell you guys the truth, man. I just don't think these champions, man, they're not it. These other champions, they're not it, man. There's guys that don't have belts in the featherweight division that I think are tougher fights for Angelo than guys that have the belts, to be honest with you. Like, straight up. I'll tell you that straight up right now. Well, old Zorro took that amount to fight Chris Smith, no? Well, that's Zorro. I don't know what he made. I don't know the numbers for that fight. I'm just telling you, generally speaking, if you're talking about a unification fight, especially in the stadium where there's going to be a bigger gate, it's a mega event, you're going to need more than a $1 million for 2 fighters in a unification fight. Now, they would have made it $2 million. Let's say if they would have made it $2 million, let's say they give Jai, 1.3, and they give Chris $700K or something like that, or 1.2 to Jai, or 800K to Chris Smith, something like that. Then it's more doable. It's more doable because now the risk matches the reward a bit more. But like, they didn't even want to give Jai that type of budget. So people ask me, they say, BT, why don't you like Turkey Al Sheikh? He's done this, he's done that. Why don't you like Turkey Al Sheikh? Because of shit like that with Jai. Why couldn't Jai just get that fight on that card? Why couldn't Turkey put the money for Jai to fight on that card against Chris Smith? It wasn't going to be that hard. They got the money. Turkey has access to the Saudi public investment fund. So if he really believes in Jai and he likes him, then make it happen. But he didn't do that. So that's one of the many atrocities that have happened on the Turkey Al Sheikh's watch that have contributed to why I don't like him. Now, is it currently like, do I have the same dislike for Turkey Al Sheikh that I had in, let's say, 2024 or even in the early parts of 2025? No, not really. I'm indifferent, but I'm indifferent. I'm kind of indifferent towards him now, but I mean, I still don't really care for the guy, if I'm being honest. Has Angelo's team tried to reach out to Nick Ball now that Ball is in champ? Listen, you're talking to one of the people on Angelo's team. We literally, everybody just got home. Everybody's asking me what's next. What are we doing? Everybody just got home. Like, Angelo barely just hugged his son 5 minutes ago, and you guys are asking about what's next. We don't know what's next. We're waiting and we're seeing and we're evaluating. We don't know yet. When we know, you'll know. But I mean, to be honest with you, personally, I'll give you my opinion. I'm not opposed to a Nick Ball fight. He's a former champion. There's value in his name. He's got the UK audience, But I'll tell you this: it ain't gonna be on his terms if he wants to fight now, because they try to make that fight happen. We wanted that fight, and we were even willing to go to the UK to prove it, and they still wanted to fight, these other guys, So he better get ready to deal with 7 to 10,000 angry New Mexicans, going crazy on his ass if you want that fight. If the featherweight champs unify, do you think Angelo will be the first undisputed champion? I don't know how long. And style-wise, who do you think Leo's toughest fight is versus the champions? The toughest fight, I can tell you who is. I can tell you who is not the toughest fight. It ain't Bruce. It's definitely not Bruce. You know what's funny? People may disagree with me. Who will be the toughest fight? Would it be Espinoza or be Figueroa? You know what? I can't believe I'm going to say this, because I actually do think he's probably, like, I don't like watching him fight at all. I think he has an ugly style. I might say Brandon, only because I think Brandon is more, because Brandon and Espinoza are going to do some similar things in the ring. They're both going to get downhill. They're both going to volume punch. But I just think Brandon is more durable. I feel like he can take a beating better, so he's going to last longer. I know for a fact Rafa ain't that durable. Straight up. I don't think Rafa is that durable at all, to be honest with you. So, believe it or not, I'll probably say Brandon. Bruce don't got the experience. He needs more experience, to be honest. Rafa ain't durable enough. So I'll say, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'll say Brandon. And it's funny because Miguel Leo probably disagree with me, but I'll say Brandon. If I got to pick. Fighting Nick Ball in American Pie will be an automatic W. I'd love to. I'd love to. I mean, like I said, things are being discussed right now. I'm not going to tell you guys what they are, who they are, and when they are, but things are being discussed. Can I show you some secret undercover shooter sparring clips of him hitting the heavy bag and mitts? Anything to help my Native American mother? I got people in this. I mean, hey, if you want to, Cam. I'm not gonna say yes. I'm not gonna say no. If you want to, I mean, I won't say much. All I'll say is I know some things about all these guys. Just DM me, champ. Don't gotta do all that. Does it suck that Angelo's fight being canceled means the investment to hire more quality sparring is not now delayed? What do you mean by that? It's not hard to find quality sparring. Between myself and Johnny, we know so many fighters with different styles all over the world. Like, we can find sparring. It's not hard. Damn, a lot of people think Espinoza will beat Figueroa, but we'll see. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Brandon is this great fighter. but he's durable and he throws a lot of punches, and so that's going to keep him in a lot of fights, and that's why I feel like, despite all the reports, the fight didn't get finalized with Espinoza and Figueroa for that reason. You understand? He can match Rafa's volume. He's more durable than Rafa, and he's not going to back down. And he's experienced, and he's been in there with like Mark Marxio and Neary. Like, he's got a good resume. He's fought Stephen Fulton. He's fought Mark Marxio. He's fought a lot of good guys. So I can't take anything from Brandon. I think he'd be a very live dog against Espinoza. And I think stylistically, even though I think Angel's better than him, there's some things that you have to overcome. What if Divino fights Lorenzo Parra? That's a good fight. I'm not against that fight. I mean, obviously, it's not any of the unification fights, but Parra just beat the brakes off Elijah Pierce. He really should have had a win against Omar Trinidad. They shouldn't have made it a draw. He beat Omar Trinidad clear as day, but why not? He's pretty high up there in the rankings. What do I think about Adam Azim? I like Adam Azim. I had a chance to interview Adam Azim in 2022 when he was down in South Florida. Good kid, nice guy, very focused. Has a very classy style from the outside, kind of like reminiscent of a bit of an Amir Khan type style. I feel like Boxer and Ben Shalom are kind of dragging ass and getting him fights. So we'll see what happens. But my dream fight for Adam Azim is him versus Ernesto Mercado. I think that'd be a dynamite fight. Is walk around weight and fight weight different? Because I feel anyone could walk around way heavier. Yeah, it's significantly different. I mean, you got some guys, like, for example, I know that Raymond Ford's walk around weight is somewhere in the 160s. So when Raymond Ford was fighting at featherweight, he was cutting down from 160. And then I know that in the past, I mean, Dave Benavidez is walking around in the 220s, right? And he was cutting down to light heavyweight at one particular point. Ricky Hatton used to balloon up in weight between fights. He used to do crazy weight cuts. So yeah, it's different. But what I can tell you is this: the best fighters in the world, like Inoue, like Floyd Mayweather, like Manny Pacquiao, like Angelo Leo, just the best fighters in the world always do a great job of staying within 10 to 10, and I would say no more than 13 pounds away from their fight weight. So if you're a 140 pounder, you don't get no higher than 152 at max. If you're at 130, you do the math. Would you advise Angelo Leo's team to talk with Eddie Hearn about signing him, since you believe wholeheartedly Angelo beating Inoue? It goes back to your advice. It goes back to your advice about your own worth. Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because when Angelo got out of his contract with Floyd, I messaged Eddie Hearn about Angelo signing with him back in 2022. And Eddie Hearn told me that they didn't have any room for him back then. And because, they had guys like Kid Galahad, and then Kid Galahad got knocked out in like a week later against Kiko Martinez. So we've gone down that path before. We'll see we'll see what the future holds. We'll see what the future holds. Can't really speak much on that because that's not my place. But I mean, anybody who's willing to give him the opportunity, be great. Espinoza fans keep saying that Leo backed out of a clash versus Espinoza. There was never any offer. There was never an offer sent. Just because Zanford Promotions and Fernando Beltran go to certain media members and they put things out in the media, it doesn't actually make them true. What diet did Angelo follow? Did you have to be strict like him too? When we were in camp, I pretty much ate whatever he ate, and I try to, keep my. I mean, I wasn't quite as strict as he was, because he's fighting, but because I had my days. I go run off to Sonic and go eat some good food, but for the most part, I was pretty healthy. We ate pretty good. He eats very well in camp. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are saying, "Oh, am I being secretive about his fight night?" Well, he's an IBF champion. You know, IBF champions can't rehydrate above 10 pounds the next day, the day of the fight. So, you know, if he's 126, you can't rehydrate above 136 on fight night, or at least for the second day weigh-in. Then you can rehydrate. But I'm saying he's not a massive featherweight. You know. Speaking of weight, with the whole issue with Devin and Shakur, do you really think Shakur will be at a disadvantage cutting less weight to fight Devin at 47, or do you think Shakur just wants to drain him? I think Shakur wants to drain Devin for sure. I mean, you know, when you're at that top level and you're fighting great fighters like Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson, you're going to look for any advantage you could possibly find. You know, so if Shakur can get that advantage, then of course he's going to do that. So it's incumbent upon Bill Haney and those guys to make sure that they do what's best for their fighter. Are you going to the next PBC event in Australia? No, that's not in the budget, champ. At least not yet. Oh, Espinoza, I mean, I would say from Espinoza is definitely in the 150s on fight night. I think. What's up, Josh? Good to see you, champ. Hope all is well. Thank you for all the support. You know, we appreciate you. You know, you on the right side of history. We're gonna make you proud, champ. I want Xander Zayas to shock the world on June 27th. That'd be great. You know, people think that I'm biased for Xander because I like Xander and I think it would be a great story for boxing if he did win. But like I said earlier in the live, I'm neutral. You know, I don't know Boots on that level. And I've talked to Xander a couple times, many times, you know, when he was younger and stuff like that. But we're not friends, you know. So I mean, if he wins, great. If Boots wins, great. I got a phone call from someone close to the Boots camp about sparring a fighter for Xander. So, and I told him, you know, because he was like, "Oh, you're the ops," so I don't want to tell you that it's for Boots. But I'm like, bro, I'm not the ops. I'm not as invested. I mean, I cover these fights for the channel. But unless I personally know you, unless you're like an Angelo Leo or a Yugo Osaki or Eric Lanzis Jr. or someone like that I know on a personal level, I don't care to that degree. You know, if I can help a fighter and someone reaches out, you know, and it's not going to affect anybody that I know, then shit, I'll help. I'm a very giving guy. With Leo's canceled bout, what's the plan now for Team Leo? Right now, we all just got back home. I just got back home last night. They just got back home. Miguel Leo just got back home today, like, because he drove. He drove from Atlanta all the way to Vegas. So people are just getting back home, hugging the children, seeing the family. You know, the plan now is just right now we're talking through some options. I'm not going to tell you what the options are, but we're talking through some options and seeing what the best thing is. And you know, when something is there to be announced, you guys will get an announcement. But right now, there's not any like things I can really tell you that's concrete. You know, everything just happened so fast. It wasn't that long. Today's Monday, well, Tuesday more now, but it's Monday on the West Coast. Still, the fight just got canceled on what was it Friday? The fight was the card was Saturday, so it's all just new. We don't know. We're figuring it out. I love Xander, but he's a stepping stone to Boots' greatness as future #1 pound for pound. Well, we're gonna see, man. I think you're being disrespectful calling him a stepping stone. He's no stepping stone for anybody. This is a real hard fight for Jerron Ennis, and you're gonna see. But if Boots really is like that, then it'll be proven under the lights. The ring will tell the truth. When can we get live fight reactions in American time and not these Japanese cards? You're like Pro Box. You have changed. Well, I have changed. You know, I have changed. I'm not the same person I was last year, let alone 3 years ago or 5 years ago. It's called evolving. People evolve over time. I'll tell you this, Hyro. More than likely, you're not going to get a live fight reaction for Keyshawn Davis versus Albright because I'll probably be there covering the fight. Xander is too green for Jerron Ennis. I disagree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I think if Boots beats Xander, it's just because he's better. It's not because Xander's green. I actually think Xander has gotten enough experience to deal with Boots. You know, to at least be competitive, to make it a real fight and potential. I think it's a real fight. I'm not sitting here saying Boots is gonna blow him out, but I'm not sitting here saying I think it's legitimately a great fight, and may the best man win. You know, we'll see how it goes. And I'll tell you this: if Boots spars the guy that they call me for, man, that's great preparation. That's really great preparation if he spars the guy that they call me for. If there was a four kings today in boxing, whether that be pound for pound or not, who should you consider and why? Four kings? I mean, I don't like using that word because four kings is reserved for four specific fighters from a very specific time period in boxing history. But four kings, I mean, regardless of weight, shit. Shout out to the other shout out to 1/3 of the Angelo Leo film study team, because the film study team is me, Jonathan Cortijo, and Miguel Leo. So you got Johnny in the building. He says the best featherweight in the world said I'm one of those four kings, and I'm you know, fuck it, I'm going with that one. I'm going to be biased. I'm gonna go with that one. I'll go with Angelo Leo. I'll go with Naya in a way. I'll go with Alexander Usyk, and I will go with well, he's retired. I was gonna say Terrence Crawford, but he's not fighting. So I'll go with Shakur Stevenson. Even though people want to hate on Shakur Stevenson, I think Shakur Stevenson, alongside Dmitry Bivol, is the best pure boxer in the sport today, in terms of pure boxing skills. In terms of being able to control you with you know, as far as distance control, in range. Um, if we're not doing the weight classes or similar weight classes, I'm gonna go with those four, and I'm sticking to it. But if we gotta pick a weight class, if we gotta go a weight class, I mean, to be honest with you guys, these guys don't fight each other enough. See, like the four kings, Duran, Leonard, Hearns, Hagler, they became the four kings because they fought each other. I mean, Gervonta Davis, the closest thing we've had to that would be what? Gervonta and Shakur and Haney and Ryan. Gervonta ain't fought none of those guys but Ryan. I mean, they just haven't fought they haven't fought each other enough. Straight up, they haven't fought each other enough. As long as Xander doesn't leave in a stretcher, it's pretty much a W for him. Damn, you guys are really just being disrespectful. Like, see, when people start getting dismissive about Xander, that's when I'm like, you know what? That's what makes me want Xander to win, because y'all not being respectful. Y'all not being respectful at all. And I hope Jerron Ennis doesn't think like you guys, because if Jerron Ennis approaches this fight like you guys are talking, like he comes out there and he starts, you know, like if he comes out in this fight like Usima Lima, I'm telling you right now, he might be the one that gets hurt in this fight. I'll tell you straight like that. Did you see Hayato is coming back on July 14th? And shout out to TSM Harder with the super chat. Appreciate the champ. Thank you for the contribution. I've seen, I think it was you earlier. I've seen you comment about it, but no, I haven't seen it. So it's actually news to me. But if that is the case, I'm excited about it. You know, Hayato Sutsumi is one of the most skillful fighters in the world between 126 and 135, in my opinion. And he's definitely one of the, I would say, if we're just talking about straight skills and it's not about resumes and who you fought and anything like that, I would actually rate, in terms of pure skills, if we're talking about Japanese boxing, I think Hayato Sutsumi is the second best pound-for-pound fighter from Japan. That's objectively speaking. I could see Xander versus Boots being boring. It's possible. I mean, how many times we watch big fights become boring? You know, we saw how boring Boots versus the first Boots and Karen fight was. What if Xander implements a similar style and he's longer and he's rangier and Boots can't cut off the ring? Then what? You know, I'm not dismissing Xander. I think it's a good move for him as long as he doesn't lose. As long as he doesn't lose, it's a win. I get what you mean, because no one's gonna fault him. You know, if he goes in there, let's just say Jerron Ennis wins a 116-112 workman-like decision. with a knockdown. No one's gonna fault Xander because Boots is more advanced in his career. Boots is the favorite, and Xander's taking this gamble as a 22, 23-year-old unified champion. So that being said, yeah, I agree. But man, I'm telling y'all right now, don't let Xander Zayas win this fight. Don't let Xander Zayas win this fight. You know, a lot of people have been asking. There's been a lot of discussions about face of boxing, superstars, things like that. I'm telling y'all straight like this right now, and this applies. You know, Boots will definitely be a bigger star if he wins this fight. So Boots will definitely be on track to become one of the faces of boxing. But you know, you're talking about Xander Zayas, a guy that's been groomed since the day he signed a contract as the youngest fighter in the history of Top Rank Boxing. Youngest fighter to ever sign a contract at Top Rank Boxing ever in the history of the sport. Like, think about that. He's been groomed to fill the shoes of Miguel Cotto since the day he walked the doors of the Top Rank offices. Yo, he beat Jaron Ennis. You got a now superstar on your hands, a real superstar at the age of 23 years old. Don't let him win this fight. Don't let. I'm gonna use some Philly slang. Don't let the young bull from South Florida, by way of Puerto Rico, win this fight. Otherwise, it'll get crazy. Japanese box question. What do you think of Yuga Fujiki's pro debut coming up? A lot of hype has been building around him. I like Yuga Fujiki. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a guy that could be a big time cash cow for Japanese boxing, because unlike most Japanese fighters, he's fighting in heavier weight classes. I believe he's in a fight somewhere between 135 and 147. So, you know, those are glamour divisions, more money. It's not like fighting at 108 pounds, but you know, I like him. I'm not anointing him yet. Truth be told, I don't even think he's the best Yuga in Japan. But we'll see how it goes. It's crazy how in this fight, Boots has more to lose than Xander, and Xander is the unified champion. Well, yeah, because that goes back to people not respecting Xander's path to the title. A lot of people say, well, he didn't beat nobody for them belts, so he ain't that good to begin with, right? And the other part of it, too, is that Jaron Ennis has, like, what has he got, like 35 fights, 35 or 36 fights? I mean, he's been around for a hot little minute now, and he hasn't really fought anybody as good as, you know, Xander Zayas. If we're being honest, who could you guys tell me on Jaron Ennis' resume, who has he fought as good as Xander Zayas? And are you going to tell me Stanionis? Because the Boots fans love Stanionis. They have like a hard-on for Stanionis. Xander would take all the aura off the Ennis Verdord fight if he. Oh man, I mean, to me that fight lost its aura a long time ago. I really could give a damn less about Virgil and Boots. I mean, the reason we even got the Boots versus Xander fight is because they both played their roles, not making the fight happen. So yeah, Karen might be elite low key. We'll see. We'll see how it does against Patty Donovan. Will give us our first somewhat answer. You know, even and mind you, I know Patty Donovan challenged for the world title, but in my mind, Patty Donovan is a fringe contender. He's a fringe contender that lost to the guy that people consider the weakest champion in the division, Lewis Crocker. So it'll be a step in the right direction from what he's been fighting apart from Boots. But you know, I think Karen against Rohan Polanco, Karen versus Tiger Johnson, Karen versus Brian Ullman Jr., Karen versus, you know, someone with a name in the top 15. Those are the fights that kind of give you a better gauge on where Karen is at. So y'all really think Karen is the best fighter Boots has fought? That's crazy. I'm not saying he's bad. I think Karen is a good fighter. I think he's a real credible welterweight contender. But like, I don't know. Is he really championship material? I mean, if he fights Lewis Crocker, he might be championship material, straight up. And you know, maybe he is. But you can't fight Lewis Crocker if you don't get through Patty Donovan. And I'll tell you this: Karen better not lead this close, and he better not make this a fight where he banks a lot of the early rounds and then he tries to con his way through the rest of the fight. Because I'm telling you right now, they will rob his ass for Paddy Donovan. Paddy Donovan and Lewis Crocker they sold a bunch of tickets when they fought in Ireland. I believe it was the first. It might have been the first ever Ireland versus Ireland. The first time two Irish fighters fought for a world title in Ireland. The fight did very good business, and a third fight, because remember they fought 2 times. They fought once before they fought for the title, and they fought for the title. So this would be a trilogy fight, rematch, world title fight. It would do great business. So the politics is not going to get Karen no favor. So if Karen wants to win this fight, he better win it incredibly definitively. Because if not, his ass is getting robbed. And I'm telling you that right now. And I'm getting out in front of it. Boots inherited a dead division full of blood spent victims where he spent most of his time as the number 3 guy. I agree with that. But I think Boots left the division before he could make the fight in the division, which was, no matter in hindsight 2020, people are going to say now, well, he would have did this to Brian Norman Jr. He would have did that. Listen, it doesn't matter. He didn't fight him. Brian Norman Jr. versus Boots quickly became the fight to make in the division, and he decided to go to 154 to fight the Angolan animal, Usman Lima. So make that what you will. Oh, so it's a German show. Well, I guess if it's a German show, then I guess Karen won't get screwed then. But still, you never know. Sometimes these judges be on some bullshit, so you never know. To be safe, win at least. If Karen wants to be safe, if Karen doesn't get a knockout, just be safe. Go win 9 to 10 rounds. Damn, Cashapp's a plus 300 against Catterall? That's crazy. I don't agree with that. I think Cashapp is Cashapp Catterall is a much tighter fight than that. I'm not a betting guy, but I know how odds work. That's too wide for that kind of fight. That fight is even. The only reason I'm picking Catterall is because Cashapp is that damn mid. Shout out to Mr. Miyagi. He says, "Good morning, BT. Just about to go to work, listening all the way from the UK." Well, shout out to you, champion. Good to see you here. Hope all is well. Shout out to all my British viewers. The Brits have always done a great job of supporting True School Sports over the years. So I got a lot of love for the British fans. And God willing, I don't know if it's going to be in the cards this year because, maybe it's not in the budget. But I would love to go back to the UK at some point in the near future for a big fight. It's been 7 years. I have a lot of unfinished business there. I didn't really like my 2019 trip there because it was very poorly planned. I was a young kid. I was kind of stupid at the time. So, this time we're going back there a lot smarter. But shout out to everybody here at your boy BT. It is currently 2:28 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means what? It's 11:28 Pacific Time. So shout out to all everybody on the West Coast. We're almost at the 3-hour mark. So, I might push past 3 hours. Maybe we'll go. Maybe we'll go a little bit longer. What do you guys think? That's what I'm saying. Like Cashapp kind of like he's a good fighter. He's a solid professional with a lot of amateur experience, but he kind of sucks, to be honest. Someone says, I really feel for Angelo. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. It feels like someone is really setting Leo up to try and get him to lose that belt. And I feel that way too. And I actually expressed one of my conspiracy theories. I expressed one of my conspiracy theories when I did my reaction video to Rice-Lee missing weight. And I actually had a manager. I won't say which fighter, but I had a manager of a top 15 world ranked featherweight get on my ass about this conspiracy that Mr. Honda, I don't want to get into it, but yeah. Anyway, I'm with you. The powers that be are not on our side, but it doesn't matter because you can't stop what God has destined. You can't stop God's destiny for somebody. They didn't want him to be champion again when he fought Venado Lopez, and you see how that worked out. They try to conspire to do some things with the Kameda fight. That didn't work out. Went to Japan and outboxed that boy in his own hometown. First defense. Who's doing it like that? So, listen, man. To take that belt off of him, you got to deal with not just him in the ring. You got to deal with my sharp boxing brain, Miguel Leo's sharp boxing brain, Jonathan Coutinho's sharp boxing brain, and the 5 decades of experience of Luis Chavez training Danny Romero on some of the best fighters to ever come from the Southwest. You got to deal with Coach of Champs, Jonathan Balgame, one of the best conditioning coaches in the game. It's a tough team to beat. It's a tough team to beat. So if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to do it the honest way. All right? And we're not going to be bullied around by nobody. So we'll leave it at that, you know? But yeah, things are definitely in the air. But like I said, the cream always rises to the top. And I would just hope that, you know, you guys that watch me would support and, you know, be on the right side of history. You talk about Pedro Tajuram, but you never talk about watching the 100 fight division like Melvin Jerusalem versus Sioka Q2 is this Saturday, and you don't even care. Dude, I just got home. I haven't even made a video about Anthony Olasquaga versus Dominguez yet, so I'm aware of it. And the reason I'm aware of that fight, Hyro, is because Yugo Osaki was Melvin Jerusalem's sparring partner for that fight. So that shows that you don't know what you're talking about, and you should stop hating. Stop hating, champ. BT, how do you see Ortiz versus Golden Boy situation ending? I see them making up. I see Golden Boy and him making up and doing a fight in Fort Worth, Texas at some point in the next 12 months. That's how I see it going. Because he should make up with Golden Boy. People can say what they want about Oscar. Oscar has done right by Virgil Ortiz. He's gotten him good fights. He's built his profile up pretty well. He's got the headline on DAZN plenty of times. And he's become one of the biggest stars in and on his weight class despite never being a world champion. How many fighters could that be the case for? Normally in boxing, you got to go ahead and win a world title to beat someone in boxing. But Virgil's actually had the luxury of being, you know, a name without a world title. So chew on that one for a second. Beat Leo versus Ball in the UK on the yearly. Oh man, now that would be amazing. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. You know, obviously things got to make sense, you know, from the monetary sense, you know. But I mean, that's a great opportunity, you know. Nick Ball, former champion, huge, massive card, big crowd, potential stadium fight. That's what dreams are made of. So I mean, shit, if it ever could be a thing, you know, who knows? Who knows? I wouldn't mind it, but it's probably not gonna happen. And if Nick Ball probably ever fights Angelo, he's probably gonna have to dust off his passport and get familiar with green chili. Shout out to my main man Chris Mayat Jr., you know, Kentucky's finest. You know, thank you. You know, it was a pleasure meeting Chris. Chris came out all the way from, you know, where he lives out there in Kentucky, and he drove all the way to Atlanta just to meet me and meet Angelo and meet the guys on the team, and we all signed his glove. So it was pretty cool. Shout out to Chris, great person. Look forward to seeing him again in the future. Shout out to Chris. Thank you. Atif, Paulo Coso, Nigel Lopez, Ali Ismailiev, Katayev. Yeah, the IBF rankings at 175 is crazy. I was looking at them earlier. Have you ever tried doing a collab with Showbiz? Both of you talking on a live would be fun, even though he got weird takes. I have not. I've never really talked to Showbiz, being honest. I mean, I don't even think we've ever crossed paths. One guy I did cross paths with though was Najee from Cigar Talk, and he was pretty cool throughout the week. So shout out to him. We actually follow each other on Instagram now. So who knows? Maybe we get that collab. Is that a collab you guys want to see? Is that what the streets want to see? True School and Cigar Talk. Maybe that winds up being a thing at some point. Y'all gonna get jumped by the Brits. You think so? Did you ever cross paths with Brunch Boxing? I think I did with one of the guys from there. I think I did. Please let Leo know that there is interest in him out there in Japan. Oh, I know. We Kiyosuke Kameda, Shimamachi, Nakano. Listen, at some point, I think we're probably gonna have to fight in Japan again one day. I don't know when, but you know, Shimamachi and Nakano are ranked pretty high in the IBF eliminator, in the IBF ranking. So I'm sure they'll order an eliminator, and one of those guys will probably become um, the mandatory challenger. So that's possible in the next year or so. But like I said, man, he's traveled the world, man. He's traveled to Atlanta twice, Japan, Mexico, Florida, Texas, Connecticut, California, Vegas. It's about time some of these guys start coming to New Mexico and start having to deal with the 7 to 10,000 to 15,000 angry New Mexicans with green chili in the system, pissed off of greatness. It's we traveled. We paid, dues have been paid. So Rhea Abbey did it when Rhea Abbey fought Venado Lopez. He came to freaking upstate New York to fight Venado Lopez. So if the genius Rhea Abbey can do it, then I'm surely Nakano and Shimamachi can do the same. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Is Ian Green gonna finally get to fight Laura? It's way overdue at this point. Well, Chris, Ian Green is not at 160 no more, so that ship has sailed. He's now at 168. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that Ian Green can get a big fight there this year. He just had a little stay busy fight out there in Alabama and he won. So, I'm hoping for a guy in the top 15 next. Where do you see Dave Benavidez among the greats in box history? I think he's on his way to becoming a great in box history. He was the youngest champion, youngest super middleweight champion in history. He was a champion at 175. He's now a unified champion at light heavyweight, and now they're talking about him going to heavyweights. I mean, if he can get like a Bivol on his resume, if he gets Bivol and Opataya on his resume, then damn, he's gonna be in some esteemed company for sure. Would or could you join Zatel podcast or radio? I think you three would give great insight and conversations. Well, listen, it's funny. I'll tell you a story. To answer your question, yes, I can. And a lot of people have asked Sean to tell that in his comment sections whenever I do his videos because they want to see that. I would be honored. Like, see, I'm younger than Sean Zatel and I'm younger than Radio Raheem, so those are actually two guys that I look up to a lot. Because Radio Raheem, I remember watching Radio Raheem before I even had a YouTube channel. So I was a fan of Radio Raheem, and then Sean Zatel is a guy that I look up to as well as one of the greats of the boxing media game, and we definitely inspire each other. So I would be honored if that could happen, but that's up to Sean Zatel and whenever he wants to set that up. What's funny? Radio Raheem used to stay at Sean Zatel's house for fights when he was coming to America. And so I remember we all stayed at Sean's house for the Kovalev Ward 2 fight week. Fun fact. I stayed downstairs in the basement and Radio Raheem slept on the couch. It's a fun fact. Is Angelo Leo buying the Rolls Royce, and are you streaming in the future for BT if your prediction happens? Are you excited for that potential future? I haven't really thought about material things, but shit, if the good Lord wants to bless your boy BT with a Rolls Royce, who am I to say no? I'm very excited for the future. I think there's a lot of great things that are going to happen in the fight game with me, not just with True School Sports, but also guys, I'm like, people don't understand it, but I'm really the Kanye West of boxing, like in terms of creativity, in terms of because I'm not just a YouTuber. I'm not. Yes, I'm very good at YouTube. That's what I'm known for. But I just if you don't go check out AngeloLeoApparel.com. We just launched the Angelo Leo Shopify store with a bunch of T-shirts and things like that. So if y'all want some gear, go over there and copy a shirt. I taught myself and learned Shopify in 83 days, in 60 days, and made a whole store for Angelo. So we haven't really pushed it like that because we're still working on it. But there are some products there that you guys can buy. It's drop shipping, so it'll deliver right to your house. So I'm getting into the e-commerce merch game. There's just many things I got my hand in involved with boxing. So I like to think of myself as a visionary. You know, Raheem sounds like he doesn't like BT. Nah, that's not true. Me and Raheem are cool. We're definitely cool. In fact, a fun fact: in 2017, me and Raheem almost wound up working together. Um, Funny enough. See, y'all, yeah, like a lot of y'all don't know how deep my history is in boxing with a lot of things. Me and Raheem actually wound up almost working together in 2017. The reason we didn't work together was because of me. Um, I was on some real prideful stuff at the time. But no, Raheem and I go back some years. If Benavidez clears out 175 and 200 BT, when I tell you I'm gonna be so invested during his heavyweight campaign, like he's my hero or something. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what he does. He's definitely one of those guys that's becoming a flag bearer for greatness in our sport. So how could you not like Benavidez? You should put some signed gloves and posters on the shop. Yeah, we're going to soon. Right now, we have some things planned for Angelo as far as like media appearances, interviews, things like that. So right now, that's what we're focused on. But like, when I go back to Vegas, we're gonna work on the Shopify store a lot more and add those things. So you'll see a lot of cool things coming. Do you think Honda has it out for you, or perhaps some road guys that work under Tekken? I don't know. Mr. Honda has it out for me. We've only met one time, and it wasn't a great interaction. Um, I'll tell you this: some people that know Mr. Honda, that know me, have got on my case about things that I've said in my videos, but I still say them anyway because I say what I want to say. Nobody's going to control how I talk on my channel. They don't pay my bills, so they're not going to control how I talk. But there's people that work for Tekken that hate my guts. Like, and it's not just one; it's like two or three. It's insane. And I try to extend the olive branch and be nice and cordial and hospitable, and they don't want to work things out. So, I'm praying for them. I'm lifting them up in prayer and remaining kind and showing respect when I see them. But so far, they haven't budged. But they're gonna have to at some point because we're gonna cross paths. Especially if like Inoue fights an Angelo Leo, then we're gonna have to cross paths again, and they're not gonna want to see me in that capacity. Um, Go to Kazakhstan and the neighboring countries for the growing boxing in those regions for amateur. I would love to, man. I would love to. Maybe I gotta start a GoFundMe to go to these places because I'm not rich. Everybody thinks I'm rich. I'm blessed. God provides, and I'm very smart with how I use my money. But like, I'm not rich yet. So maybe if I want to go to the Philippines or those places, we'll start a GoFundMe or something. Tekken has a PBC vibe. It ain't far off. BT, I've been thinking. Tell me if I'm crazy. People want to see Benavidez at heavyweight. If he waits around and Usyk vacated belt, if Wilder gets one more win, I could legit see. Ooh, Deontay Wilder versus Benavidez. Oh my god, the PBC super fight. That would be insane. Cause I just seen Deontay Wilder. He was just ringside at the card in Atlanta over the weekend. The one that Angelo was supposed to headline against Aleem. He was there to go watch Price Taylor because Price Taylor was a sparring partner for the Derek Chisora fight, so he was there to support Price Taylor. He was ringside, and I just seen Benavidez. Fight Zordo, so I got to see him up close in person. Yo, I mean, Wilder is definitely taller and he's rangier, but I think Benavidez is bigger. Like I think he's wider than Wilder. So that would be an insane sight to see. Sign me up. Imagine Wilder. Let's just think for a bit. Imagine Deontay Wilder cracked Dave Benavidez the wrong way, and he retires as a world champion, knocking out Dave Benavidez. I know you can say Benavidez is not a heavyweight, but just think about it. Wilder being 40 years old, cracking Benavidez the wrong way to become heavyweight champion, that'd be a crazy way to go out. But if not, then Benavidez beats Wilder. I mean, that's crazy too. That would really launch Benavidez into another echelon of superstardom. I think that fight could do good business in the States. Daniel Dubois versus Wilder. I don't foresee that fight happening, to be honest. But who knows? I mean, Wilder. I think Wilder's at a stage now where, like, he's not the A side. His name, it's not 2017 anymore. He just went to the UK for Chisora, so his name got even bigger in the UK fighting Chisora. Shit, why not? Why not do Benavidez versus Dubois? Or not Benavidez, not Wilder versus Dubois, I should say. Wilder is now a PBC no more. Yeah, he's not, but Benavidez is. Benavidez is a PBC, so, and Benavidez would be the A side. So guess what? Wilder's gonna have to work. He's gonna have to work a PBC again if he fights Benavidez. Yeah, no. The thing is, Benavidez is such a talented fighter. He's such a dog. He's such an awesome fighter that, it sounds crazy, but he's one of those guys that you think could probably pull it off. I don't want to see it right now because he just got to cruiserweight, and I'm not a fan of guys just, I'm not a fan of guys moving up too fast. I think he literally just got there. Let him try to go undisputed at cruiserweight, settle in a bit more, build his body up a bit more, then go up. Where is Slick Rick? I heard he was sick recently. I'm not sure. I hope he's okay. I haven't talked to Rick Laser probably in 3 months, because I don't talk to Rick, and I try not to talk to people that are in the boxing world, like, in the industry, when I'm in camp with Angelo, because people ask too many questions. They're nosy. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know who's in camp with you, what fucking color food you ate. They want to know your social security number. So for the sake of camp, I don't talk to people like Rick, in the industry while I'm in camp. But shit, I'll probably give him a call soon. I agree. I feel like, before we get carried away and talk about Benavidez against Usyk or Dubois or Wilder or any of this stuff, we should be talking about him versus Beterbiev. I still want to see him against Beterbiev. I feel like that's still one of the most violent, best fights you can make in the whole sport of boxing. I still want to see him against, Bivol. That's a big fight, blockbuster. Why not? I hope we get that Bivol versus Benavidez fight soon. I love Bivol and Beterbiev, but I'm ready for a Teeth, Najee, and Bennett get straps. So yeah, I'm ready for the next era. Beterbiev and Bivol, they had the AIBA World Championships 2 times at the top of the division. So let them sail into the sunset. They had great careers. I'm sure both guys will have a nice, comfortable place in Canastota, New York, in the Hall of Fame. And I'm ready for the next era. And by the way, Chris, I never had a chance to ask you, what did you make your first professional boxing card in person? Did you like it? Even though, because I'm a bit spoiled. I go to a lot of fights, so I thought it was whatever night of boxing. But what did you think as your first card? Yeah, listen. Whoever they can get in the ring first the day of Benavidez for a big fight between Beterbiev and Bivol, I'm all for. Bivol has to fight Michael Eifert, and I know people don't want to see that fight, but he needs to fight Michael Eifert because I'm very big on guys fighting the mandatory. Michael Eifert beat John Pascal in 2022 to become the mandatory. So we're talking about, and he beat him in, like, was it 2022 or 2023? I can't remember if it was 2020. It might have been early 2023. I'm gonna say it was early 2023. He deserves his shot. Let him get his shot. If he can't be Michael Eifert, then you don't deserve no big fight, because it means you're not like that. Oh no, the cruiserweight division is more popular than I've ever seen it. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy hearing people argue. Like, it's actually crazy to me to hear boxing fans in America have talking points about cruiserweight, because this is a very Eurocentric, British-centric division that people in America don't give a shit about, traditionally speaking. So I can remember being here on YouTube talking about the Marat Gastievs and Bivals and these kind of guys, and nobody can, like, people apart from the boxing degenerates didn't care about any of that. Now they do. So it's cool. It's pretty cool to see. Julio was definitely the king of Atlanta that night. It was fun, man. I actually sat next to a woman that trained a lot of fighters in the prelims. What was her name? And yeah, Julio was it Julio Gomez, the Mexican, the only Mexican fighter in Atlanta. He's fun. He's fun. He's a lot of fun. For me, my favorite fight was Casey Dixon versus Matthew Noir because it was so bad that it was good. Ooh, Hyro says that the cruiserweight division right now is more popular than when they had the World Boxing Super Series cruiserweight tournament. Shit, you might be right. I think I might have to agree with you on that. Hell yeah. Because I mean, it wasn't the biggest crowd I've experienced at T-Mobile, but they had like 8,000, 8 or 9,000 in there probably when Benavidez fought Zotto, and I don't think you could get any fight in the cruiserweight division, no matter how skillful they were in America to get 8 or 9,000. You probably couldn't even get 8 or 9,000 for a cruiserweight fight in the UK, except maybe. Well, no, that's not true. That's not true. Let me backtrack because Bellew versus Usyk was a big fight in the UK. People be forgetting that Tony Bellew, towards the end of his career, caught some fire. When he was champion, he became somewhat of a name, and then Usyk fought for undisputed. It was pretty big at the time. All right, guys, I'll go 4 more minutes, and then I'm gonna dip because it's almost 3 in the morning. It's almost 3 in the morning here on the East Coast. I wanted to give you all a long live today. I've shattered my what I was targeting, which was 3 hours. Now we're at what 3 hours and 21 minutes. So shout out to everybody here. The first card I seen was Wilder versus Herndon. I don't know if you remember, but I asked, and you convinced me. It was cool. The crowd makes the funner. Wilder looks bigger in person, and his shoulders are huge. I remember that fight. I remember that fight. Wilder. I thought Wilder actually boxed decently in that fight. People were shitting on him because he didn't look like the Deontay Wilder that fought Artur Spilka, but like he's older and he's taking some beatings, so he's not gonna look like that guy. He's 40 now. But yeah, Wilder is huge in person. I remember after the fight was done this past weekend, I was sitting there with Angelo, and then Angelo Leo went to go take a picture with Wilder, and I took the picture, and it was crazy how huge Wilder was. I didn't catch her name, but she gave me the gym's Instagram. The guy that made the call out ringside was her godson. Oh, you're talking about was it Morgan Griggy? I think that was the kid's name. The 12-0 kid. He's like 12-0. Morgan Griggy. He was, and the crazy thing is that the guy he was calling out was right next to me, so I got to hear the whole interaction. It was pretty cool. What would be Dave Benavidez' career high payday so far? That's a good question. Let me see. Boxing is pretty funny with purses these days. I remember back in the good old days when boys were boys and men were men. They used to always have everybody's purses up. Now it's hard. But I typed it in, and they said that what fight? Yeah, I don't know. Probably Plant. It's probably gonna be like Plant and Morrell because those are pay-per-view fights, and when you get to the pay-per-view level, you're talking about getting the purse plus the pay-per-view upside, and if you negotiate it properly, plus the gate and things like that. So, probably Plant or Morrell. Who pays the fighters? The promotional companies, and the promotional companies get a lot of their money from the TV networks, and also, it depends on the fighters too, because if the fighter is big enough, like let's say Canelo Alvarez isn't just getting money from the purse and the promoters. Canelo Alvarez is going to sell a lot of merch, right? A lot of people buy Canelo Alvarez t-shirts, so he's going to get that. Canelo Alvarez is probably one of the only fighters that could probably negotiate a deal, that does negotiate a deal to get a percentage of the concession sales. So he's going to get that as well. Like, so if you go to a Canelo fight, as he once said in an interview, if you go and you buy a soda, Canelo Alvarez again is getting that money that you pay for that soda, you know? So it just depends on the fighters. It depends on the stature of the fight, the stature of the fighter. Is a fight pay-per-view or not? You know, are they in a state that's tax-free or non-tax-free? It's a lot of things that go into these things. It's not everything is so black and white. So that's why when people say, "Oh, BT, just fight, just stay active," like, it's not that simple. I wish it was. If it was like if it was just as simple as staying active, fighters would never have layoffs. Fighters would never go inactive. But it's not as simple as you guys think. And the deeper I get into boxing, the more I realize how not simple it is. You know, it's crazy. Well, I won't do that high roll. If Benavidez beats him, I think he deserves full credit. You know, you got to give Benavidez his just due if he beats a guy like Opetay. Opetay is a fantastic fighter. You know. But guys, look. On that note, I think that's about gonna do it because it's 3 a.m. here. You know, I don't give y'all 3 hours plus. I gave y'all way more than I thought I would give you. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Tomorrow, or I should say later on today. Later on today is gonna be a more structured live. It's gonna be, you know, talking points and things like that and all that blase. But I just had to come on here and I had to just get off the mark and give you guys a real proper live and just talk to you guys and get in some rhythm because we're back on set, back in the home of boxing, back to kind of normality for a little bit until, you know, we get the call until, you know, training camp starts again, and then guess what I'll be doing again? I'll be going to training camp. So until then, let's just enjoy this time we have together before camp starts again. And yeah, you know, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay tuned for all content, guys. There's a lot of videos I got to do, a lot of shorts to be put out soon. Just a lot of stuff going on here on True School. So stay tuned for that. Keep supporting me. Keep supporting, you know, True School Sports. You know, Angelo Leo, Team Leo, all that stuff. And definitely just God bless everybody, man. The year got off to a slow start. It's really picking up now. So, you know, hopefully you guys are a part of the journey. And God bless you guys. Take care. And I'll see you guys later on tonight.